Good evening, everyone. We have come back since we started our closed session meeting 4:30 today. We already finished our closed session. No any item for the action to report to the public. We will continue our special closed session meeting after this regular meeting is finished. This meeting will be conducted in person and also with the virtual participation through the Zoom. And the emails continue to be accepted, but will not be read aloud in this meeting. We started out the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to invite Francisco to lead us for Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to ask our city clerk, Rebecca Barr, for roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett.
Here.
Councilmember Agramonte.
Here?
Councilmember Felder.
Here.
Councilmember Lowe.
Here.
Mayor Dean.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to check if any agenda item needed to be changed for today's meeting. Yes.
I just actually spoke with our planning director before the meeting, and he asked me to remove item 4.2 from the agenda.
Okay.
He would like his wife to be here for that presentation, and so I would like to put that on the next agenda.
That's great. Yeah. Appreciate it. It's wonderful. Can you take an motion?
Do we do a motion on that?
Do we?
Well, we just make a motion to approve the agenda without
yeah.
4.2.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I forgot. We wanted to change the presentation 4.4 to be after 4.5.
Okay, after the
4.4 becomes 4.5, 4.5 becomes 4.4.
Yes.
Okay.
So I move approval of the agenda with the following changes, moving the 4.2 to the subsequent meeting and moving 4.4 and 4.5 into the alternating positions.
All right. Who's second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett.
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte.
Aye.
Councilmember Felder.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Agenda number 2, comments from the public. At this item, members from the public, you can make any kind of comments not appearing on today's agenda. Please keep your comments 3 minutes or less. Please come to approach, starting by your name and how to spell it. Okay. How about the Zoom?
We do have Matt Metzler. I'll be bringing him in.
That's great.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Matt.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear from you.
Okay, hello, City Council. I'd like to talk to you about the lack of affordable housing in Sonoma. Where I live at Friar Creek Drive and Newcomb Street is a wonderful neighborhood only a mile from the plaza, close to schools, parks, and bike paths. It's been a great place to raise my family. About 25 years ago, when they built some houses, including mine, in order to meet the affordable housing quota, the builder was required to build one smaller house, which is next door to me. This house is on a smaller lot than the others and was granted an easement on the setback requirements such that the house's garage wall is right on the property line with zero setback. I'm glad the city of Sonoma required this one smaller house to be built to provide at least some affordable housing. However, when this house went on the market, it was bought by someone who already owns another home. The house has not been lived in since sold in January, and the new owners spent the last 10 months in extensive upgrades and remodeling. In addition, the house next door to me on the other side is also a second home and has only been occupied a weekend, a month or so for the last 20 years. So these are examples of how the housing stock in Sonoma is reduced by being bought by second homeowners who do not live, work, or raise their kids in our city. The city to explore help with this problem. Perhaps a two-tier tax system could be implemented with one rate for full-time residents and a higher tax rate for second homeowners. From the amount the new owners of the vacant house next door to me have spent on high-end remodeling, I think they could afford the higher taxes. And I think this is only fair, as I have the disadvantage of not having a setback between that house and my own, but there's no benefit of seeing it being on the market for a local workers' affordable starter home. I don't know if the smaller house with the zero setback was deeded when built. Perhaps moderate income deed restriction has expired after 20 years. I would like to see the city of Sonoma place a longer period of restriction on all low and moderate income housing that it requires to be built. I know that imposing a property tax surcharge on second homes in Sonoma would be very difficult to administer and it would present huge legal challenges. However, I think that exploring this way of assuring housing for those who work here and to keep our housing from being used up as second homes is something worth looking into. I've read that Oakland, Paris, and Vancouver have implemented this kind of vacancy tax. People love to come to Sonoma for our great food and wine. I urge you to do everything you can to make sure that Sonoma housing is available to folks who work in our great restaurants, wineries, schools, and retail shops. There are plenty of lodgings available for visitors to Sonoma. They shouldn't be taking up our housing for second homes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. Any more in the public comments?
No one else is raising their hand, Mayor.
All right, yeah, thank you. I would like to encourage our public come to our the chamber in the room and in person to participate. And this always encouraged in person. But if you have difficulties, of course, yeah, you can use in a Zoom. But we try to improve our quality from the Zoom meeting. Let's move to agenda number 3, meeting dedications. No? All right. Let's move to agenda number 4, presentations. 4.1, celebrate the Sonoma presentation of certificate of recognition in honor of the Mary and Paul Favaro. I would like to ask, please, present to,
Yes, thank
because
you.
you work closely with them.
Thank you. If you'd like to step up. And so I can't tell you how excited I am for this evening. And I wanted to correct something in the newspaper. Kathy Capriola did not start Celebrate Sonoma. It was actually Amy Harrington. So I just wanted to correct that. This is so important. No one knows how hard you two worked. The first time I met you was at the Sunflower, and I thought, I can't believe this man has this idea to do this. But it was, I don't know, it turned out, you people are miracle workers. City of Sonoma Certificate of Recognition, Mary and Paul Favreau Day, November 16, 2022. I, Jack Ding, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor of the City of Sonoma, do hereby proclaim November 16, 2022 as Mary and Paul Favreau Day in the city. Your contribution to our community is recognized and much appreciated. Presented this 16th day of November, 2022. I cannot tell you all how amazing these two people are. We've been through fires. We've been through security on fences. We've been through it all. It was so amazing. And all this time, you two led this amazing team of people who were very committed. especially by me because I don't like to swim. And we missed my inauguration that day because it was too cold. But I really am so proud to work with you two. This is more than just a project. This really is a legacy for the people of Sonoma and for the city of Sonoma because it's amazing. You know how many bad feelings came with the pool that was shuttered, and it's a shame. But you two, I don't know, you've changed the lives of children and people here in Sonoma forever. So I wanted to personally thank you and the board of directors. So I will give this to you, and here is yours.
Can we say a few words?
Okay, I just want to say thank you. We are honored. As most of you know, it's been a long time coming, this aquatic center, and it's been truly a community effort. While we're honored to be recognized for it, there were a lot of people and organizations involved, especially the Sonoma Valley Unified School District and the high school staff were fantastic to work with. The city council and the city of Sonoma both believed in this project before we even had a final location, but also were great and have granted an annual grant to ensure that all Sonoma citizens and community members can actually be at the pool. I want to really thank all the volunteers and donors who have put time and effort into making this happen, as well as the other local nonprofits who are working with us to ensure all members are able to access the pool. And lastly, I really want to thank our aquatic director, Jane Hansen, and the staff that have stepped up and are making this thing really work for the community. So again, thank you, everyone. And if you haven't been out there to see the pool yet, get out there. It's fantastic. And it's warm water. So, okay, well, thank you all, and we're honored.
So while we're waiting for the council to come down to up front, I wanted to remind people you can still get day passes. You can get memberships. You can buy tiles, and you also can buy a lane. So just remember that. Thanks.
Thank you. It's wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Let's move to another agenda item. That is 4.23, presentation from the Sonoma Citrus City Association by Katie Baylor, Chair, Kaniv Ukraine Committee, and Diana Short.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Katie Bailey. I live at 661 Cherry Avenue in Sonoma. And I have a couple of things for you. This year I went to Greve, our sister city in Italy. And I did take a bottle of Gunlak Banchu wine for them. And they gave me a bottle of
What?
Chianti Classico. So I'm going to give this.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Maybe I'll put on a showcase in the upstairs for a
Chianti,
while.
Chianti Classico is, it has to be at least 80% Sangiovese wine, Sangiovese grapes. So that is Classico. And the center of that is Greve. I'd also like to give you something that they gave me, which is the symbol of the City Slow, which began in Greve, and Sonoma is one of the 3 cities in California that is actually in the U.S. that is a slow city. So, and that's it is a kind of commitment to sustainable agriculture, to kind of maintaining a culture, the original culture of the area. So this is the symbol of that.
Yes, nice.
And I'll bring that up in a second. So I just want to give you a little background because Mayor Ding asked me to give you a history of how we came to be sister cities, Sonoma Sister City Association. And it began in the 80s when a local peace group named Sonoma Action for Nuclear Disarmament was very concerned and worked on the Freeze Voter 84 initiative, which was a non-binding initiative aimed at requesting the governments of the U.S. and the USSR to limit the arms race. And that did actually pass in 1984. But out of that, the group decided to try to initiate a sister city in the Soviet Union. And that's how we got our now Ukrainian sister city. And the motto was make the first strike a knock at the front door. So it's been something. And then we joined the city joined Sister Cities International, and we became an actual official city with Kanyev in 1987 when Mayor Nancy Parmalee and 21 people went there. And you probably know, I'm sure you do now, that Kanyev was just recently attacked. And I have a letter that I just received today, which I'm not going to read, but I'm going to give to you because I think it's so powerful. It's just a personal account of what how they're managing to deal with this at the
Yeah.
city level.
If you like, maybe you can share a couple of the paragraphs.
Maybe
Yeah.
give it to Rebecca
Yeah.
and she can make sure we get a copy, all of us get a copy of it. Yeah. Thank you.
And so just to give you a little sense of what they're going through there, and to tell you that we in Sonoma have raised over $100,000 due to the generosity of our local people. And they are using that money to provide food and shelter for about 4,500 refugees that are constantly either staying or going through Kanyev because to different parts like Poland and other areas that are safer. Their hydroelectric plant, which is a critical part of their infrastructure for the whole area, was bombed about in October. And so they're they're buying generators because the city lights and the sewer, water, everything is being rationed, and the electricity is at a minimum. So, their volunteer centers, which many people there are working in the volunteer centers, are providing food and housing and medical and school supplies for the refugees, and plus their city. So I just wanted to kind of update you on that. And Francisco has also been to 3 of our cities this year, and he had a little presentation to make, and I'd like to invite him up. And just
Thank you. Oh, that's great. Slow city. City is stuff. Slow, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Mayor Ding, members of the council, citizens of Sonoma. I'm not Diana Sampson. I'm Francisco Kilgore. Sister cities are all about friendships. While governments can develop relationships, companies can sign deals, only people can become friends. Over the course of several months, I came to just find out how many true friends Sonoma citizens have, even if they don't know it yet. These are old friendships, strong friendships, the kind where even if you don't speak to one another every day, when you do pick it up, you pick up right where you left off. I managed to visit 3 of Sonoma's sister cities by train: Chambon-Musigny in France, Greve in Chianti in Italy, and Tokai in Hungary. Over the course of these visits, I couldn't have been more warmly greeted. I met the mayor and vice mayor in all 3 towns, sat down for meals with citizens, laughed, and took too many pictures. Ultimately, I recorded more than 30 interviews with everyone from butchers, politicians, opera singers, and school teachers, historians, and hoteliers, each of whom gave me the snippets of their personal stories and sometimes of their own trips to Sonoma in their years past. They covered romance, music, economics, but most of all, they covered friendship. I set out on this trip as a board member and liaison for Sonoma Sister Cities Association and a special envoy for my KSVY radio program, Hello Sonoma. My plan was to help Sonomans connect with their sister cities and with the friends they didn't know they had. These interviews aired locally right here for every Sonoman to listen. Given everything we've discussed, I think it will be better for the citizens from these cities to directly share with you some of what they had to say.
So is there anything that you'd like to say to the people of Sonoma who might be listening? I'm so excited to be here. I know that other visitors have come, but
You have to be local, but you have to be to have a global view on how the world is going. So you cannot be closed in your own little town, because I mean you miss a lot of beautiful things, beautiful experiences, beautiful people that all around the world. I've been there 3 years ago, before the COVID, and it's a lovely place. I mean, it's really a pleasure to have this relationship with you, and hope to go back there as soon as I can, and you're all invited here.
I want to visit Sonoma, perhaps a little exhibition in Sonoma of my painter with the land of Impruneta.
yeah, why not? That would be fantastic. Grazie mille.
Grazie a voi.
Every little things in our life, in our town, is a treasure. So if you keep this treasure, you have culture.
I visited Sonoma about the first time about 35 years ago. We make a little trip in Sonoma for visit the farm, for wine farm, so it's a very nice place. Yeah.
We hope to see you in Sonoma again.
I hope.
Oh, that's one. Yes.
So in these clips you heard from Giulio, Gianni, Alessandra, and Sauro, and there are more clips from Istvan, Oti, Shara, and Garbor. The only thing that's missing is a clip from Chambon-Musigny in France, our first sister city. When I arrived in Chambol, I had no idea what to expect. 2 days before, I had gotten a WhatsApp from an unknown number saying that a man would pick me up at the train station. The day I arrived, a man was waiting, leaning on his car. As my heart began to race, I realized that this was real, that I was about to see my first sister city, to step completely unknown into a new place whose relationship was solidified by what I thought was only a metal sign on the road. Instead, I found a true friendship I didn't know was there. One of my hosts, Lucien, said it best when he said, "I met you yesterday and I'm receiving you as if you were my brother, as if I knew you forever." In what other tourist adventure would you find yourself on two strangers' terraces within 24 hours of your arrival, laughing like old friends? To me, this is what Sister Cities is all about. It's about so much more than travel or tourism or food or wine. It's about realizing just how small our world is and just how connected we all are. We are so lucky to have these friendships. Let's make sure they continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Thank you,
Yeah.
Francisco.
And I want you to know that we talked about this briefly, Francisco, but I'm going in January to Chambol, and I haven't contacted anyone yet, so I'll be calling.
Yeah, that's
And I'm taking my son, my younger son. So
such a wonderful.
Someone will pick you up at the train station. Yeah.
excellent. That would be very good.
Yeah. Any comments or yeah. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank both Katie and Francisco for this presentation. We're so lucky to have these sister cities, and we're so lucky to have so many of them. A town our size typically doesn't have that many, and so continuing those bonds with all the different sister cities is very important. And I just wanted to briefly mention, I don't remember the details, but I do remember as a kid when Kanye that got off the ground. I was very close friends with Katie Bailey's son, and I spent a lot of time at your house as a kid, and I remember, I believe former Mayor Larry Murphy was very involved with that effort, and it's just amazing to see, obviously, how that has gone over the last, few decades, I guess, and then obviously it's been so important to have that sister city this year. So thank you for all your efforts in starting that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, we needed to celebrate. I always think, and Sonoma has two invisible assets. One is our rich foreign history. Another one is our relationship and the global and international relationship. That is also our asset. Although we are small in size, in population, but we still can play very important role on the international stage. We can promote our values, our opportunity, freedom, and democracy to all over the world. That is how important it is. I'm so glad. And Katie, you, 35 years ago, started the relationship with Carneve. Right now we are still running, and also right now, Kelso and I, the still seeing what you're doing. What is encouraging me is look at our young generation, and Francisco, Kilgore, and just like hold this and the torch, want to carry over to our young generation. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I think to me the most important part of this is that the citizens began this process, and I think, and to me the original was the nuclear arms race, but now we're in a similar situation with the climate change, and I think I really applaud your new commission on global warming. I think it's very important, and I think cities, even though you feel like, well, what can I do? It can make a big difference, and sometimes it takes a while, but it will. And I really thank you for doing that.
There's an international climate change going on right now. Yeah, but it's in Egypt right now. In fact, Mayor Chris Rogers is over there, as well as others.
Yes, climate.
Talking
change,
about the
yeah.
global thing, and I can't wait till Chris comes back so I can pick his brain
Yes.
about what went on there.
And we have the sister city in Egypt, right?
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, as one. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, that is the Global Climate Conference.
Yes.
And Chris Roger and Jackie. They are representing our the county. Yeah, again, this area, this town is very internationalized. Yeah, never forget, we have an additional responsibility. And last time, we had a conference with the Ukraine Consul General, and at this time also, and the San Francisco City invited him as well, but he decided to come to our Sonoma. That is a special meeting. So he's in a conference and in the front of the civics building, and become a big news in Europe and across the country. And also, I received the email from the president and Zelensky, and he invited me to attend virtual meetings. And according to him, the support from the White House is equally important support from our community. So that is the reason how valuable what we are doing. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move to agenda. Oh, do I need to open the public? I don't think so, right? This is a presentation. Okay. Let's move to 4.5, presentation of cemetery assessment report by EDA Land Planning.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Ding and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present the cemetery assessment presentation tonight. I'm very pleased to be here presenting one of the city's 90-day goals, City Council's 90-day goals. We're ready to get started, but I wanted to give a brief historical timeline on how we got to where we currently are. In July of 2022, EDA land planning personnel met with Public Works staff for a preliminary assessment and discussion around facility planning of the City of Sonoma's mountain, valley, and veteran cemeteries. The purpose of this on-site work session was to determine the realistic options for further developing one or more of the 3 cemeteries. The mutual conclusion of this cooperative work session was that the 3 cemeteries all have a significant life or capacity for continuing to provide public burial options to the citizens of the City of Sonoma and its broader service area. In September of 2022, Council approved a budget adjustment to move $30,000 from FY 21-22 to FY 21-23, authorizing this study. Since July, EDA Land Planning, in conjunction with Public Works, have been working on and assembling the presentation that will be delivered this evening. On Monday afternoon of this week, an abbreviated version of the presentation was delivered to the Cemetery Ad Hoc Committee members, council members, or committee members, Vice Mayor Barnett and Council Member Agramonte. And with that brief summary, I will turn over the microphone to Jack Goodnow with EDA Land Planning.
Yes, this is Jack Goodnow. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I am happy to represent our planning team of Dave Hepburn, Dan Cable, and myself. We are very pleased to be part of the assessment of the feasibility of the cemeteries because they constitute a very important part of the soul and the spirit of a city. And the fact that there is life left in these cemeteries to continue to serve the city and your surrounding area. It's exciting to be able to be part of just how that might happen. So I think I should share my screen, Rebecca, if that's okay. And are you now seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good. Well, as Mike Berger pointed out, we were charged with assessing the feasibility of continuing to manage and provide cemetery services as a city. And as he mentioned, we came away with the conclusion that the opportunities are great. It depends on 2 things, really. An assessment of the population and the demographics that you serve, and if that provides a suitable service base for being in the business of offering cemetery services. And the second part, of course, is the physical plan of the cemeteries. And you have 3 mountain Veterans, and Valley. And in each case, we were able to determine that there is, in fact, a lot of opportunity. One of the main reasons for that is that the trend in America is ever increasingly for cremation, and cremation takes so much less space of a cemetery that by default, it increases the capacity of a cemetery to continue to be vital over time. And there are opportunities in all three of your cemeteries to do just that. We begin with an understanding of what exists today. There was a two-part effort. Dave Hepburn took a good look at the demographics and the sales history and the service opportunities in your service area of Sonoma and Marin County primarily. And then we looked together with the Department of Public Works at the physical plant in order to make an assessment of those opportunities. I will speak for Dave. When we're done, you're certainly welcome to ask questions of all of us, but I will give the presentation on behalf of all three of us at this time. And if there's a need to join in, Dave, please do so. But these graphs essentially summarize the fact that there is a growing population base, which obviously means an increasing rate of deaths at the same time, and that there's an opportunity to service that market. This chart demonstrates just the shift from what we refer to as full body burial to cremation. And it's nationally approaching 50 to 60%, and in California, it's exceeding 80 to 90%. So it makes a huge difference in how we utilize the leftover land that exists in the cemeteries. But the summary of this is that there is a market and a service opportunity in your service area. I thought it would be wise and helpful to just show you some examples before we start talking about the cemeteries specifically. We're going to be referring to cremation and other burial options. So I thought it might be helpful to have something, pictures in your mind of what we're talking about as we move forward. Cremation is often put in a niche like the upper photos, the upper right photos, a simple location within a structure, but it can also be an individual burial, such as the statuary on the left, which holds two cremations. It can be in the ground and memorialized by plaques on the ground. It can be in a bench. It can be in structures, small structures like the lower left. So these are, when we refer to, in this case, we really call them columbarium or cremation gardens, meaning an outdoor space. They can also be placed indoors, but by and large, this cremation market, the buyer prefers a garden location. So we've looked at the opportunities to do just that. Here's an example of some cremation gardens with the memorialization being upright monuments, being stones. This court in the middle actually holds 1,000 cremains and also serves as a place for services and even events in the cemetery. And then this is a more structural approach where combining cremation with architecture or shelters, and we are proposing that there are shelters that would allow you to have services within the cemetery. The building on the middle left is a good example of an opportunity today to use architecture to have cremation that's, one, exposed to outside conditions, two, sheltered by a porch, and three, actually in an indoor secured space. So these are the kinds of things, and you can see on the lower right is an option where there's cremation in the supports of that structure. So the opportunities are great because the cremation unit itself is so much smaller than a full body burial that it gives you the ability to gain a lot of density in small leftover spaces, which is what we're dealing with in many cases on your three cemeteries. This is a facility referred to as a family estate, meaning that they buy a small parcel of land within the cemetery, and it's designated by being separated by walls or benches or landscape. But there's a sense that there's a single piece of property that belongs to the family. So we refer to these as family estates, and those are options within your cemeteries as well. And cenotaphs refer to placing the name in a location where the remains of the individual are remote. The Vietnam War Memorial is a cenotaph. All the names are listed there, even though the soldiers are somewhere else. So the opportunity to do that is great. As much as 50% of cremations today never even make it into cemeteries. So it becomes incumbent upon cemeteries to offer places to take the remains so that they're not just scattered or left on the shelf, or if they are scattered, you can still memorialize on a cenotaph, which is a great thing for what is referred to as heritage. In other words, part of the family is already in the cemetery. Even if the remains of the next generation is remote, they can have adjacency through a cenotaph. So it's an opportunity both for the private cemeteries, the public cemeteries, and the veterans. And these are just some examples of how you can list names on landscape elements, rocks, sculpture, walls. So these are the kinds of things that we're thinking of our opportunities. And in particular, the cenotaph becomes a very important issue for the veterans. More and more the veterans, National Veterans Cemetery and the state veterans cemeteries are offering a very large percentage of cremation, and they're also offering cenotaphs. And these are some good examples. So these are opportunities for infilling the land that is still available on your properties. So with that kind of context in mind, we looked first at Mountain. And Mountain is made up of the historic elements on the right, on the rigorous hillside from which it gains its name, and then the lower flat land that's referred to as the annex. We felt that the Mountain Cemetery basically is useful to the existing families who may still find burial spaces, but it doesn't have land because of topography available for any kind of substantial public development for new facilities. So we focused our attention on the annex and the veterans. Just to help you visualize some of those opportunities, on the upper tier is a mausoleum on the area that we refer to as the South Terrace. And over time, the land around that has been paved almost in full between all of the structures. And we believe that there's a great opportunity there to reconvert some of that asphalt to gardens. Behind the mausoleum that you see on the left, the slide to the right shows the backside of that, which is a blank wall, and is a perfect opportunity to add more mausoleum space for full body crypts. And then to take the hillside that's there and regrade it to make that space available for new development. In the middle is our views of the annex with, again, the high percentage of paving that has been generated over the years. Just by default, more and more gets paved. There's not an awful lot of opportunity in this particular area for new development, but at the same time, there is the opportunity to soften this with landscaping and trees by managing some of the spaces that aren't really needed for thoroughfare or parking. The one in the middle on the left is the view coming in, which at one time probably was lined with trees and quite soft and elegant. And we think that that's an opportunity to recreate that. There are places to plant trees and places to put shrubs and flowers in a way that would restore this entrance to the cemetery, not only to the annex, but it's a vestibule for the historic cemetery. So it's a very important roadway to both cemeteries, and enhancements would benefit both. And the lower one is a very unique opportunity. Looking down from an intermediate spot between the historic and the annex is a rise in the land of a terrace that has development potential and has a great view down into the annex and the context of the mountain behind it. So it's a rich space that can be utilized to a great extent. Down in the annex itself, the upper left shows a columbarium. It's the only columbarium facility that you have right now, and more of these would be useful and wise. On the right, in the upper right, is a mausoleum with a courtyard in the middle, and there are spaces along this property line to the west for putting more of these kinds of structures, and structures like the ones that I showed earlier with the columbariums, the niches in a structure itself. So there's an opportunity to grow that part of the market. In the middle are two areas that are at the foot of the historic cemetery in the annex. On the left in the middle is where a stream comes down and goes into a pipe under the cemetery. But there's this piece of land on the top. It's kind of interesting that someone has put an impromptu piece of art there with a spiral, sort of signifying that it's a space that has potential to have its own character and be a unique spot. So there's a lot of opportunity in places like this to put in cremation gardens and niche walls, columbarium walls. The lower one is the same situation, a slope between the annex and the upper historic area that could be filled with a large amount of columbarium space in a garden setting and cremation walls. And then the middle on the right is an old roadway to the west of the mausoleums that is an expansion space that could either be mausoleums or more of what we refer to as the raised beds that are the typical in this area. So if this is what's existing, the blue being the light blue being the raised beds, the dark blue are mausoleums, and then the sort of green blue are private family estate mausoleums. So this is the vocabulary that we can work with, adding, of course, to that a lot of cremation. The green space is all of the land that's available. So you can see there's a substantial amount of land that could be used with this kind of fine footprint that the cremation offers. This would be the master plan for that area, adding mausoleums along this property line with intermediate cremation gardens, adding more raised beds in this area, or even mausoleums. But because the raised beds are your only current in-ground full-body burial, more of those might be a good way for your next step to just continue that. Adding at the same time more in-ground burial on the south terrace. So looking at these individual areas then, looking first at the south terrace, this L structure is that existing mausoleum. The dark blue are where we could add either what are referred to as couch crypts, meaning niche crypts that are put sideways on the building, so it takes up not much space, and we could have a walkway, which could be a lovely walkway between the historic cemetery and the new burial that's on this building. Or a major addition of a new mausoleum, 2 stories tall, that's accessed from either above or below. And then using this structure as earth retaining, we can create a flat terrace here that gives us the opportunity to put in what are referred to as double depth lawn burial. So the crypts, the concrete vaults that is, are pre-installed 2 deep and then covered with 18 inches of soil. So you get a lot of capacity by having burial 2 deep, but it is a way of accommodating the traditional market of full burial. At the same time, all of the yellow areas are places for cremation gardens that might have all those options that I showed in the original photographs. And this would be a retaining wall to create this terrace, and along that could be a walkway with cremation gardens and an overlook with views back to the city. So this could, instead of being the forgotten backside of this site, it could actually be a whole new facility with a new presence and a view to the city, including a committal shelter for services with protection from sun and weather. At the north end, three major opportunities: the addition of mausoleums along the property line, the use of this upper terrace, which could include a committal shelter as well, with a nice overlook, and incorporating cremation into the shelter itself. And then at the valley floor, at the edge of the slope, where it backs up to the historic cemetery, we can put in the areas that I showed in the photos, we can create cremation walls and nice gardens and meditation courts. And then all of the darker color here are opportunities for new private mausoleums. So that's a market that I think has a lot of opportunity, and it's a good source of revenue. In this, at the entrance to the cemetery, we're proposing that you dress that up with gateways and fences and signage, so that, and landscaping, so that the entrance really gets celebrated. It's understated at the moment, but it needs to be brought to the forefront as a welcoming portal to the both the historic and the annex. On both sides of that, landscape gardens and cremation gardens, including an expansion to Babyland in this corner, and then the addition of some more double depth raised crypts, raised beds, like all of these blue ones, but done to double depth and with more landscaping associated with them. And then both of these arms of access into the annex and up to the historic cemetery can be enhanced with landscape, reduced paving, creating an island within the large expansive area of asphalt to soften and minimize the look and the presence of all that asphalt. So you could really restore this whole approach to a very soft and garden-like setting over time. In terms of how to go about this, we're proposing what we're calling a 5-year horizon, as opposed to a full phasing plan, because phasing plans for cemeteries are protracted over 30, 50, even 100 years. So because the city is now sort of reinitiating its involvement as an active service, we're suggesting that a mix of facilities take place, that the first blush 5-year plan should include the enhancement for the visuals, so that the cemetery is inviting. Historic cemeteries all suffer from the perception that they're full. So the best thing you can do is tell the community that no, we're not full, it's attractive, please come in and see what's new and available. So these arms of landscape enhancement become very important. At the same time, adding burial opportunities near the entrance where it's visible, so that the public sees that there's new, fresh things going on. And adding more of the raised beds, which is your current market, but then adding the options which are latent and unrealized today, but very powerful, making up to 80% of the market. The opportunities then to start cremation, either indoor or garden setting cremation at this property line, up on the terrace, and at this entry facility. And with the revenue that's generated here within a 5-year horizon, the next step would probably be to do the South Terrace. But as we discussed with Mike and Chris, you're going to learn a lot in that first 5 years. And so the second phase will be a response to how the market is responding to what you do in these first 5 years. How much cremation, how much full body burial? Do they like gardens? Do they like them inside, indoors? So this is the horizon for efforts over the next 5 years. And as our discussions with both Mike and Chris is that the next step is to determine just how you go about implementing this. The Veterans Cemetery, a very attractive and rigorous environment, has the opportunity, because if you don't know, all the existing burial is double depth lawn crypts today, but only about a third of the property has the lawn crypts installed. And one of the reasons is that groundwater proved to be a problem, and we're suggesting that the nearby drainage systems that exist in the facilities surrounding this area, the parking lots and the buildings, there is stormwater availability, and that the new double depth burial can be subdrained in a way that makes it viable. So the infill with a great deal of new double depth burial, but then other opportunities exist around the Star of Honor. We feel that enhancements here would make it inviting and more help you to draw from the VA. National VA is building new cemeteries, but there's heritage in Sonoma that the veterans, if they can, would rather be close to their family in many cases. So we're looking at that opportunity by finding ways to enhance this. When you're at the Star of Honor, the off-site views to this utility shed are something that could be blocked with new facilities. And then all of these hedges, these shrubs that are at the edge, have spaces in between that could be used for cremation. And then the barren star at the far tip of the cemetery is a really nice sort of garden space, but unutilized, and this could all become cremation garden. So this is the burial that's there today, and this is all the space that's available for double depth burial. And then the barren star is a piece of real estate that has great opportunity associated with it. So with those opportunities, the recommendations are to complete the double depth lawn burial in the lawn, and then begin to infill between the hedges, the shrubs, with columbarium walls. And in particular, at this corner, as a way of blocking the views and containing this, a high cremation wall, like some of those ones you saw in the photographs, a cenotaph wall that is, or cremation, either one, but some feature that ties down this corner and stops the bleeding views out to the off-site facilities. And then the Star of Honor itself could be enhanced with trees, lighting of those trees so it's visible at night, because of all the facilities to the south of this that do get nighttime use, particularly the Veterans Center, would have a really lovely view to this facility at night from a distance if this was lighted. And then the arc of concrete that's there could be enhanced by actually putting trees, cenotaphs at the end, so that instead of just being an end that spills into the lawn, now it's contained and has a purpose. And benches to view all of these facilities would be a nice meditation space. So really taking the star that's there and enhancing it, including lighting, sidewalk lighting coming in. Then at the barren star, similarly, using the space for cremation and cenotaph in a garden setting, which would be very popular. We really believe that the VA market in your area could use this, would be very popular. So the 5-year horizon here is to put in the double depths, a subdrained system engineered to subdrain the double depth burial, and then enhancements to the Star of Honor, and the first part of the barren star court and gardens could be completed. The Valley Cemetery, like Mountain, is made up of a historic section and an annex. In this case, the historic is what you see first, and it has a great deal of opportunity. It needs maintenance and it needs enhancement, but the character is wonderful and the opportunities are great. The annex itself is filled with these beds, but there are no trees, so it's overwhelmed by a sense of these granular beds and paving, so it needs enhancement. The top pictures are of the historic cemetery, and it's not known precisely what's buried and unburied, but our assessment is that there's probably a lot of land in here. It's of the scale and character for infilling with cremation gardens. And then as you move through the historic area back to the annex, there's a columbarium unit here today on this side, and we could repeat that on the other side, and then find ways to enhance and draw people back into the annex so that this character that's there today could be softened and enhanced, and these walkways in between actually become new burial space. So there's a lot of land there if used properly and creatively. The two lower ones give you an idea of just how much the paving dominates the landscape in this case. So this is an area where infill is an option. And specifically, when you drive through, well, I'll start with the historic cemetery. The pale green is all the areas that, by our best assessment, looking at the maps, the sales maps of the property, it's our sense that the dark green is what's buried and the light green is not. Now, in a historic cemetery, it's going to be very important to do ground penetrating radar and probing to determine if that's in fact the case. But nonetheless, it appears as if there's a substantial amount of unused space in the historic cemetery. Then the transition to the annex should be celebrated so that this becomes a gateway and we can enhance this area. And all of that paving in the back can be reduced to a minimum of or sufficient paving to do a turnaround so a funeral procession can come in and loop around and get back out again, or minimize this into just more of a parking area. So we want to reduce all of that paving and then infill it with new facilities. And you can see that if we do infill all those walkways, we've got a tremendous amount of double depth, full body burial to this. This proposes the family estates that I mentioned, where you divide it in this case with hedges or benches. So these become sort of premium private estates along the road. And when we put this, when this gets reduced to just a turnaround, all of the land around it now is usable for burial facilities. And repeating the columbarium that's there today on the other side would be a nice way of creating a gateway to this area. In detail, this orange area indicates at least the first pass at finding a way to infill in the historic area with gardens. So there could be pathways, and all of this could be cremation garden at a very high density. There should be some sort of accommodation for sitting and meditating, and then a formal walkway that visually and functionally draws you back and ties the historic area to the annex with the double columbariums as gateways. The existing maintenance area shed is right here, so we're proposing that that be moved to the back, and that this is an opportunity to enhance the historic area by actually offering some premium family mausoleum space and really revitalize this as a historic setting. In the annex itself, as I mentioned, the gardens can now be linked together. If we put gardens around these two columbarium units and tie that with a walkway to another facility here that is at the end of a walkway through a garden, and then that is linked to a center feature here that could be a columbarium court, could even be a committal shelter, but cremation gardens, again, high density, making use of the island now in the road and softening that mass of paving. And then to block off-site views, this could be a columbarium wall that's 6 feet high, so that it captures and creates a strong edge to the cemetery and really puts the focus back on the cemetery instead of off-site views. When we can tuck the new maintenance facility in here surrounded by a fence, so there's adequate room for a truck to back up in here and so put in storage materials, gravel or vaults, equipment in the corner where it's least seen throughout the whole cemetery. Then these infills between the raised beds, we're proposing a system. If this is the raised bed today with upright monuments down the middle, so this grave is memorialized here and this grave is memorialized here. If we put another raised bed in between, but instead of just what's referred to as at need burial of a full body, just when the person dies, you dig the grave and put the coffin in. Instead, you dig up these areas, these walkways, and put in double depth lawn crypts. So you double the capacity and then intersperse that with trees. So the construction of this would be to put in the vaults and then have a sales program that sells these at the end first, then you put a tree in, then you put these in, you put another tree, and you back your way out of these corridors. But it adds trees and it adds a tremendous amount of new inventory. In terms of the 5-year horizon, the suggestion is to take the existing columbarium, enhance it with more landscaping and duplicate that on the other side for this gateway. Enhance the entrance because right now the view into this is very diminished by chain link fence and no gate and facilities that need restoration. So a new fence, a historic picket fence would be appropriate along the public road, new landscaping, new gateways and signage, and then taking the existing structure, which has the flagpole in it, and just enhancing it, dropping it to a level so that you look over it and see down this corridor into the back of the cemetery, which now has trees at the end of the view, and enhancements along that corridor. So landscape enhancements to the entrance, new columbarium units, and then there's not a lot of expense in putting some smaller columbarium units in this garden and installing hedges for this. We do believe that part of that first effort, and we also believe that Valley should be the place to start because it's closer to the center of the city in a sense, and it's very accessible, and it's small scale and can be a lot of impact with less capital investment. But it's a way to start generating revenue, and to do that, we need to accommodate the current market of full body burial and cremation simultaneously. So just the first pass or the first phase of the infill where it's highly visible when you come in, and then improvements to this road to reduce the pavement and add trees and softness around here, moving the maintenance structure, and then making this land available on the market for vaults, or excuse me, for private mausoleums. So that the total available in those master plans for Mountain Cemetery, we have 1,700 full body burials and almost 6,500 cremations, which is close to 8,300 new burials. But I should say that these are all very conservative numbers because cremation is such a small footprint that even our master plan hasn't addressed all the little nooks and crannies where cremation is available. So this is a very conservative estimate, but you've got over 8,000 at Mountain, 1,200 in Veterans, and another almost $3,000 in Valley, for a total of 12,000 at first blush, 12,000 available. And if you're selling, with a sales program, we're estimating you might sell 300 to 400 a year. That's a 30 to 40 year horizon for just what we're showing, not including all the opportunities for additional cremation in spaces that haven't even been tested yet, such as Valley. So that gives you a 30 to 40 year market to work with, and some of the strategies to implement the first pass efforts, that is, we're recommending that there's a separate cemetery department with a full-time staff that has the ability to both manage and sell, and the maintenance and landscape opportunities to do the enhancements that are required. New marketing materials to promote these opportunities and the future of these cemeteries and get people excited about coming to and using cemeteries that are part of their community is important. In gaining staff, the training programs, including not only dealing with sales, but dealing with grief, that takes training. And then software for record keeping. In today's world, electronic systems for record keeping are phenomenal and very useful and practical and should be incorporated over time. And then using the cemeteries as they're enhanced for special activities so that people go there not just for burial, but they can be places for concerts, performances, tours, historic tours, seasonal tours, and classes, and all kinds of special interests that can take place in the cemetery. Many cemeteries with attractive committal shelters are being used for weddings, and I think that with the proper improvements to both Valley and Mountain Cemetery, that's an opportunity. And then just establishing very efficient internal communication systems. So with this, we're happy to answer any questions. And I know one of the main things on Mike's mind is what the next steps are. And those are things that we can talk about outside of this meeting, but this gives you the opportunity to see what's possible and where to start. So we're happy to take any kinds of questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, for that presentation. I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I really appreciate it. I just had a couple questions. What would your estimate be? I mean, obviously, there are going to be a lot of different types of product available. You know, niches, cremation gardens, family estates. During our meeting earlier this week, you said family estates similar to the sort of historic mountain cemetery where you have a little building with a name on it. Those, you said, what would you estimate the sort of market pricing for something like that would be currently?
I'm going to defer to Dave on that one.
Can you hear me? How do you
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. I can't see myself anyway. But these little buildings you refer to are mostly for, they're like small mausoleums.
Right.
And I've been involved for several decades in this business, and it's not surprising to have a price of $500,000 or $400,000 for some, that has several places in one building for family. But it's very special, very beautiful, and so forth. So that's the market for that. But I mean, market for other things in the cemetery would be much less money.
But I was trying to make the point that those family estates could go for between $500,000 and $1 million.
Yes,
Correct.
well, I did one up in Santa Rosa that went for $2.7 million.
Right, and then
so it can happen, yeah.
And then would you have sort of just a rough estimate, because obviously that's at the extremely high end, But what would you say an average, like if we just wanted to make a straight average, what do you think the average price would be for a product? You know, when it comes to the city, obviously they're going to be cheaper for a cremation garden, but would, sorry?
The market has really changed. For years and years and years, the full body burial type product was the most expensive,
right?
And now it's completely turning around, and the most expensive products are becoming the cremation memorialization, even though the space is much smaller. The idea of memorialization of cremation is really very popular. So in the case of the ground burials, I mean, I think that you could be in the $10,000 range. And in the case of cremation, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't get to $15,000 for one niche space. That includes,
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think
All right.
that would be, yeah.
It's higher than I thought. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you have to sell it, though. I mean, you have to present it to the families properly.
Yes.
So would you say, if we were just going to make a projection, and obviously your report said that there was the market for selling perhaps 300 to 400 a year in terms of current need and then advanced planning, would you say an average price would be 5,000? Perhaps even higher? I mean, I thought it was going to be closer.
I would say 8,000,
Okay.
9,000 even.
Okay, so we're selling, potentially we could sell 300 to 400 a year at 8,000 each.
I
That
think
seems
so.
reasonable?
And after you've done some of the work that we've recommended here, if you decide to, you're going to have a lot more people really interested in these cemeteries. So the volume of this 300 might even end up at 400 for the first year.
Right.
But,
Okay. Thank you. I was just
300.
trying to get some sort of bearing in terms of the market pricing.
Sure. No problem. Thank you.
My question is following. These kind of price, if any, some of the favorable price for the local residents or open to all in the public? How about?
Well, these prices that I'm just mentioning to you right now are much lower than most of the counties south of Sonoma. The Northern California prices are really high, starting way south of San Francisco and working all the way up. But the Sonoma, I think that I don't know, I think that 9,000 probably is more is where it might be. But I mean, there's some ground burials going on down in like Coloma, California, that are like $20,000. It's crazy, but that's what it is. And some of these beautiful urns that the niches that have been built. And, I mean, I'm even shocked at my old age here of some of them going for $30,000 a piece for one niche. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. But on the average, I think that 9,000 probably works.
Great. Questions? Okay. All right. Yes. And if any other question from the public? All right. That's good.
Good evening, everyone. First name Robert, last name Frank, Larkin Drive. I want to commend you. His name was Jack, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
True
Yeah.
consultant.
Jack and Dave. Yeah,
a
two.
true consultant. Really knows his craft. So much so I have to ask, does he have a spiritual connection with his work? Because it is really amazing. Anyway, I wanted to say that it said that we die twice, once physically and the other time when we're forgotten. And I was wondering if any thought has been given to something like Google Grave, where you might go up to a grave for those that wanted to participate and get the bio on the person that's there. Has any thought been given to this? Jack?
Oh, there are programs for that. Yes, absolutely. They put a yeah, uh, you can use your there are plenty of programs where you can use your phone to then tap into the bio of that, and there can be recordings, videos, music, anything you want to put on the web. And some of them are integrated with the record keeping system too. So there are very sophisticated systems for the cemetery managing that and the individual being able to tap into that.
Very good. And you beat me to the question about the 60 percentiles of us that would opt for cremation. And half of us would rather have our ashes spread in our favorite place. So that would suggest that of the 24 people here, 8 of us are certainly trending in that direction. We'll want our ashes spread in our favorite place. So I wanted to also...
Yeah, that's why it's so important. It gets forgotten, but it's extremely important that you have cenotaphs that are not just dull blocks of stone. You creating a garden and creating sculpture and creating places that are inviting and comforting, so that your family. One of the things that cremation and the green burial movement miss is that ability to just take a family member and say, this was your grandfather, and you place a memorial there. That physical connection, even if it's just a name. If you've ever been to the Vietnam War Memorial, you know how powerful just a name can be.
Ingenious.
So cenotaphs are a very important part of the new development.
Thank you so much.
One more point, Mr. Mayor. One more point.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry. I just had one other name to give you. There is a national name called Grave Finders, and they are every single day taking pictures of every single grave in the United States. That's their long-term goal.
Recording in progress.
All right.
Yes,
Recording stopped.
okay, I'm done. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
One more thing, Mr. Mayor, if you would please indulge me.
Okay, yeah, one question.
Yeah, all these fantastic prices for, a lot of us can't afford to die. And the point being, this is something we all have in common, death. And death is as much a part of life as birth. And the thing I wanted to emphasize here is that at Train Town, and I shared this point with him, Mr. Felder, a good many months ago. We have a 4th cemetery in this town. It's called Train Town. And it's mostly cancer-challenged children. And the parents will come up to me and say, Mr. Frank, would you mind if we spread our child's ashes here? And I said, how could I stop you, and why would I want to? And I've never charged a damn penny. Thank you.
All right. Any more comments from public? Anybody from the Zoom, please? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Jack, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Oh, yes.
All right.
We have Fred Olabach.
Oh, okay. Fred?
Thank you, Mayor Ding. Good evening, City Council and Mayor Ding. I have a question. People in the past paid the equivalent of maybe $5,000 for a burial, and I wonder what's the long-term commitment of the city to maintain these burials? If we look at the case of the Upper Mountain Cemetery, where we see the grave sites falling apart. And so I had sort of hoped that, the cemetery presentation here would open up perhaps some thought of making the Upper Mountain Cemetery a historic park, a city historic park, and leverage the fact that it's the oldest operating cemetery in California, with just some extremely cool atmosphere and graves that that the cemetery and a historic park could work with a synergy to preserve that area. So I'm not sure if this presentation considered that, but I think that's something that should be considered by the city because it just seems like a shame to every year watch these grave sites just fall apart more and more. And if you have public works go up there, like 10 hours a week, or you got a contract masonry crew, you could put some of these blocks back together and not say that it's the family's responsibility to maintain these plots when these guys are long gone and they paid their $5,000 at that time. And it seems like, as 50 or 80 years goes by, then all these plans and stuff really just go out the window, and then you're gone and you're forgotten. So I think that the city owes the town mothers and fathers who were buried in the Upper Mountain Cemetery a better showing in maintaining that area, and particularly the grave sites and the stonework there that is really special. So I'm just curious what the city's long-term commitment is to these new burials. In 100 years, are these going to be falling apart? You got your $5,000, and then that's just the way the cemetery business works.
Thank you, Fred.
Dave, I'm going to interject. I wonder, Dave, if you could just give a brief summary of the requirements for endowment care.
Just an answer question.
Well, that's
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dave.
Okay, this is Dave. Well, in the state of California, if you're a registered cemetery with the state of California, you're required to have an endowment care fund. That started in 1934, but your city is not a member of the state of California. You're just a city and a county cemetery, and so you have no requirements to put an endowment care fund aside. If you were like some other cemeteries, some of them put 15% aside. It's a one-time only payment, but it goes into a fund that can never be touched except for maintaining a cemetery. But we did touch on this issue of that old historic part of the mountain cemetery that Jack mentioned, that we had looked at it, but it is a shame in a way because it has, over the years deteriorated. But that is a separate issue to try to figure out what to do about that, because you can't just all of a sudden start, unless you decide to do it in your own city, put up an endowment care fund. You're kind of stuck on that.
Well, I think, isn't it fair to say, Dave, that even though it's not required, it's a model that could be utilized and should be utilized?
Well, it is a model. I mean, there's no restriction about having an endowment care fund if you decide to do it. It's just that if you were state registered, you'd have to have one. But then that's a way to. But it takes a long time to build it up. Anyways, I'm not trying to be negative at all. I believe in endowment care funds, and it's kind of shocking at first when somebody comes in to buy something and then you have to add a 15% on top of it for endowment care. But then when they finally realize that that's a one-time only, and it's in the bank, it's an endowment care fund that cannot be touched. It's all legal and it's all registered with the state and so forth. But and you could do the same thing even in your own city. You could have it set up that way.
Thank you. Any more? Oh, Madeline, you have a question?
No, I'm just waiting
all right.
for.
Seems like no more public comments. So thank you again, Jack and Dave, and also thank you.
Thank you.
Real pleasure.
Great.
Also, thank you for Council Barnett and Marion Agrimonte for your effort and the leadership for this project. All right, let's move to, oh, yes.
Well, we have comments.
Oh,
Or, I mean, I think Madeline, or any of us have comments.
yeah, you have, yes.
Well, it was interesting, thanks to our director, Mike Berger, you know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So I agree with Fred Alleback. It really is shameful, I think, the way that the Mountain Cemetery has, looks now, but, you know, being a person with nonprofits, you do have gift acceptance policies. But when General Vallejo was the leader of this whole area, nobody could turn down his gift, and that's where it came from. So now you would say, no, I don't want that because it's too much work, but it's here and it's ours, and I think it needs to be honored. But I think Mike Berger, as we move forward, possibly will share some of his thoughts with us. I agree, Fred, 100% with your comments. But there's another way, I think, to work it, but maybe it'll have to be backwards.
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciated this presentation. I also agree 100% with Fred. We do have an obligation to take care of our cemeteries and those that came before us. And obviously, we also have an obligation, I think, to our city for those that want a final resting place currently and in the future. This is a city service. It's just like our water department and our streets, and this is a city service. And, you know, I think I first met you, Councilmember Agramonte, maybe 6 years ago, when you invited me just to sort of help out with you and a former councilman on the cemetery committee. And so this has been a concern of the city for a long time. In 2005 and 2006, they did a very similar cemetery report to this, but it also had some high-level financial analysis. And back then, we knew we were out of room. And for a variety of reasons, we never moved forward. It offered a few different options. We could obviously continue to operate the cemeteries ourselves. We could lease it to a cemetery operating business that would do it themselves. We could sell the cemeteries. That was obviously very controversial and was not supported at the time, and then nothing happened. And so we've known for almost 20 years we're out of room. And so what was really exciting for me to hear in this report is that there's a lot of potential for room. I quite frankly didn't expect to hear that there's potential for over 12,000 graves in our current city cemeteries, and so that's very exciting. It's increasing density in our cemeteries and throughout our city. Is very important. So the reality is the cemetery, so we do have an obligation. It is a service, but it's also a business. It operates within an enterprise fund, just like our water fund, which is different from the general fund, and it currently is dramatically in the red. I believe it's almost $2 million in the red that the general fund owes, or the cemetery enterprise fund owes the general fund. And so, again, one of the primary takeaways from this is that there's tremendous opportunity here. There really is. And so it's good news that we have capacity. I think that we have very unique cemeteries, and I think we would have in business speak, a competitive advantage compared to cemeteries in the area for like the Sonoma, Miranda, Napa area, but primarily Sonoma. And quite frankly, the baby boomers, I've said this before, but they are approaching. Well, I'm just saying there's a large market out there right now that might be considering this. So, and so we, obviously I'm very happy that we're getting the ball rolling and starting to talk about this, but I'm really going to sort of talk to you, Mr. Mayor, and Sandra, Councilwoman Lowe, and then our new council members-elect, Patricia, and John and Ron. I think the way to do this right could be very capital intensive, and the general the general fund does not have the money to do this right. I mean, but the good news is, I think, and I don't know exactly how to do this, so I'll leave this to you and future city staff members, but just thinking about it, if they estimate that we could sell 400 a year at an average of $8,000 a year, that's $3.2 million a year. That's $16 million over 5 years. perhaps maybe it won't be that high. Perhaps we can, obviously make affordable rates, obviously, for city residents. But the reality is, I think there would be financing options out there to, make the sort of capital intensive investments right off the bat. I mean, we have potential for 12,000 spaces, but we don't have the vaults. We don't have the mausoleums built. We don't have there's going to have to be a lot of things done in the beginning. And so sometimes that's tough to do, but I think there could be a way to structure this that would not only continue to provide those important services to our local residents, but also could, eliminate the debt in our cemetery fund and to the point we were just discussing, really start to build an endowment for, so we can take care of these cemeteries in perpetuity. So I think there's a path here. I'm very excited about it, and I'm really happy we started this. We've been trying to do this for a long time, and there's still a lot of work to do. And so I will look forward to seeing what you guys decide to do with it. And but there's a tremendous opportunity here, and I think we need to get going on it, because every day that goes by, every year it goes by, people will need these services, and we currently don't have, we don't have any available plots currently.
So that was my question, was like, what is the sort of lag time, if you will, between, producing the entities required, the buildings and so forth, and being able to actually start having funeral and there. I mean, is it 6 months? Is it 5 years? What is it? So I think that that has to be. We need to know that so that people can plan. I mean, these are things people plan for. So because they know it's going to happen, right? So but if we're going to start selling, either the full plots or the niche or whatever they're all these terms that I will learn, I promise. We have to be able to tell people that this is 5 years, right, or this is 6 months, and then we got to start working on it.
That's one more thing I was going to say. One thing that we could probably start right away is, I believe in the 5-year plan for Mountain Cemetery, there was a estimate of 10 family sort of estate plots that we were told could sell for between $500,000 and $1 million a year. And I think, there are obviously many people in our community that, probably could afford that and have egos and want to be remembered 150 years from now. And maybe we should start with that, and immediately you could raise probably $10 to $15 million to then finance,
Well, I think that's the next step.
Yeah.
I think we need a timeline that shows, do we start with that? Is that the way to go? Or is it more beneficial to the city residents at large to start with something that has more volume and can reach more people?
I agree. What I was saying was you could sell those plots in advance and use that money to build
develop.
Yes.
Thank you again. Yeah. Thank you, Marilyn. Yeah.
You're
go
welcome.
ahead.
So our director of our Public Works director, we discussed some of these ideas, and I think some of an idea that you came up with seemed to be the simplest, most advantageous, to just make something look nice so people will know there is a future for cemeteries here in Sonoma, possibly not up the mountain, but in valley, because it's more visible, and maybe in the future that'll be discussed. But it's a smaller bite, but it really I think it has a huge effect to be able to do something there as well.
Great. Thank you again, the both. Yeah. Your hard work and your direction. Yeah, just like a legacy for the city council and also here. We will work on this. Thank you, and also thank you to Mike.
Yeah, and just to finalize a little bit and kind of conclude the discussion tonight real quickly. Obviously we're here tonight. We're going to receive and act on any clear direction and just some clear thoughts given by council. We're going to continue the small amount of work with EDA land planning and finalize their report. Thoroughly review their assessment. That'll be our next task as we're diving into this. And then utilizing their 5-year horizon plans, they provided develop and propose first next steps at a future council meeting. And you use that as a sounding board because these could include any combination of changes to current market prices, CIP, marketing practices, and or any of the other items that they presented in their in the assessment tonight. Yeah, and then as they alluded, see how the reaction is, see where we get a positive feedback, see what people are interested in as we push out the new product. So, thanks again.
Thank you. Any more no comments? Robert? Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, that's wonderful. No comments, inputs. Really appreciate it. Thank you again, Jack and Dave. Let's close this agenda item. Let's move to the last presentation. 4.4, presentation and update from a homeless consultant, Andrew Hanning.
Rebecca, I'm getting a note that I can't start my video until the host allows it, so I don't know if you're able to do that.
We can hear you, definitely. Yeah.
I'll try. Here we go. Looks like I just got co-host. Okay, beautiful. I can at least now see myself, so hopefully you can see me as well.
It's too late.
So again, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Andrew Henning. I'm here tonight to give you an update on the city's homelessness efforts. And I have a short presentation I'm going to share with you, which also includes a short video in the middle. So hopefully, internet permitting, it's not too laggy and you're able to view it and get some of the information from that video. But again, this is, I guess, the first time I've been back to you since June. And I've been working now with the city for, I guess, a little over 6 months. And that began as a phase 1 effort to just do a pretty rapid 2-month strategic assessment of local homelessness efforts. So I wanted to just give you an update about, again, what that original findings look like and then what's been happening since. So as a quick refresher of what I shared with you in June, there were 3 primary findings that I reported to the council. The first was at a high level, just given some of the regional, state, and national best practices that have been emerging around homelessness. A fairly general finding that, yes, there are certain ways that the local system of care could be more effectively configured. And with my various consulting clients now, I try to use, it's a very complex and dense subject, and there are a lot of different building blocks of how to create a system of care. So I started using this kind of flow chart to map how a person actually goes through the experience of homelessness. So just as a quick refresher, under S, the systems, you have the kind of systemic causes that are driving a lot of people to experience crises that end up resulting in homelessness. So that could be the cost of living, it could be mental illness or addiction challenges, it could be domestic violence. But basically these issues are making it more likely for people to actually become homeless or face long periods of homelessness. When that happens and that crisis moment happens, a lot of people actually self-resolve their homelessness, but this is also a point for the system to step in and intervene and try to prevent someone from actually ending up on the street. So as a local example, FISH as an organization does a lot of prevention work to prevent people from actually becoming homeless. If that prevention work is unsuccessful, if someone's not able to self-resolve their homelessness, then of course, unfortunately, they actually end up on the street. And that's where you move to this E step around engagement. And so this is your street outreach, it's your drop-in services, it's how you're coordinating your system to engage and work with people. From there, people could either be referred to shelter or they could be referred directly to housing. So that's kind of the universe of kind of thinking about how a person might flow through a homeless system of care. And within that, and this is beyond the scope of what I'll be sharing tonight, there are many, many different programs and building blocks for how to actually do these different programs. And so that's what that first finding was based around, of how do we actually get to the best versions of these programs that exist across the country. So the second finding, and I think the more immediate issue for the city to consider, is this issue around chronic homelessness. And the city of Sonoma Valley is not unique in this. Many communities struggle with sufficiently addressing chronic homelessness. And by way of just a quick formal definition, chronic homelessness is long-term homelessness. So that's homelessness that's a year or longer, or multiple episodes of homelessness over multiple years, that's accompanied by some kind of disabling condition. So like a mental health issue, a substance use disorder, a traumatic brain injury, or in many cases, multiple of these issues going on at the same time. And what happens, unfortunately, is that when systems of care are not designed to be able to respond to chronic homelessness, or I think more appropriately, the challenges that are leading to chronic homelessness, people get stuck in this really vicious feedback loop. So basically, they have complex needs, and that can make them difficult to serve in programs. They fail out of programs, unfortunately. That understandably leads to more distrust of the system. People don't seek help, their situation gets worse, and then it becomes more difficult to help them later on. So in my work over the years, I've worked with people that have been stuck in this chronic homelessness loop for 5, 10, even in some extreme cases, multiple decades, unable to get the help that they need. And the result from a community level is that even though chronic homelessness is a small percentage of homelessness overall, it can dramatically, it basically rises exponentially in terms of public service utilization, and I think just generally public perception of the issue. So that I think is definitely a major issue that we're trying to address. And then lastly is just the fact that while there are, or at least back in June, there were some kind of nascent early efforts to, come together, collaborate. Really, there was not a clear, formal, collaborative structure for working together to address either finding number 1 or number 2. So those were kind of the 3 core findings from the report back in June. And that came with, I think it was 8 recommendations. Yes, 8 recommendations. And so just to quickly recap those, in particular, these more short-term things that we said should happen in the second half of 2022, one was to actually convene some kind of task force, really just, again, this convening of different partners to begin to drive the kind of systemic change that we need. That was number 1. Number 2 was hiring or creating some kind of coordinator role to oversee this effort and to bring these partners together and to work together. So that was number 2. Number 3 was, as this group was forming, as our system work was beginning to shift, coming up with new metrics or a new way of evaluating and tracking what we're doing. And then lastly, number 4, in terms of these short-term recommendations, is beginning to coordinate services through something called a by name list, which I'll talk about more here in a second. So progress to date. So again, this was back, I think it was June 15th when I was last with you. So progress to date. So the city did end up extending the contract with me to continue working with the city around these various issues, and essentially playing this kind of coordinator role in the short term. We still are talking, and certainly it's something we can talk about tonight. What does this look like more medium to long term? But at least for now, I'm happy to help the city and providers and the local community try to refocus our efforts. What that has primarily looked like since is really working to bring all the partners together. So meeting with the county, local providers, local funders, the health center, and other local stakeholders to really build buy-in for a new way of approaching what has been a very old and long problem in the community. And the most, I think, powerful and important way that this is manifesting is we've secured support from SOS, Homeless Action Sonoma, FISH, Police Department, the Fire Department, and the Health Center to begin creating and using this by name list. And again, with the caveat of we want to make sure that we're working within any legal or programmatic guidelines for data sharing and privacy that's in place, and that's certainly critical. So that to me, it might seem like that's just a line in a PowerPoint presentation, but it's actually a really, really big deal that we've been able to get there within, I guess it's only been about 3.5 months. So why is that important? What is a by name list? So I want to share briefly with you a little bit about a national effort called Built for Zero. And I should say, even to back up, this was some of the data that I shared in the report back in June, which at a high level is saying that, at any given time in Sonoma Valley, there are about 3,600 households that are living in poverty, 80 of whom are literally homeless at any given moment. That was the kind of best data that we had at the time of the report. And to even zoom in more closely on people that were homeless, we found that probably half of those folks that were homeless at any given time were staying in their vehicle. Another 30 were literally unsheltered, and another 10 were also literally unsheltered and part of this kind of high service utilizer, chronically homeless group that we talked about before. Importantly, there's turnover in the homeless community over time. And so based on data from local providers, probably about another 120 people are becoming homeless throughout the course of the year. So this, I think, is helpful, but it's not really, there's not much you can really do with this. And so I think that's really where the by name list comes in. So to quote from something called the 100,000 Homes Campaign, which was an effort about a decade ago that began to popularize this term, and I'll just read it to you. It's ridiculous to think that as a community, you're making a serious go at addressing street homelessness if you don't have a proactive, consistent, methodical method of having a list of who's outside. So really, it's not just being theoretical, it's literally who is outside and how do we help them. And the 100,000 Homes Campaign was an effort to try to house 100,000 people, chronically homeless people, across the United States, and that was successful. And the kind of phase 2 of that effort is called Built for Zero, which I was mentioning earlier. Built for Zero is a national coalition of communities all across the country, including actually Sonoma County, that are committing to use this kind of by name list methodology and the data tracking that goes with it to monitor and try to drive down the number of people that are experiencing homelessness in a given community by increasing exits to housing and decreasing the number of people that are becoming homeless. So I wanted to share a very brief video with you to further contextualize how Built for Zero thinks about this and what they really mean by the by name list. So I'll share that now.
Can you imagine living in a community that has solved homelessness? A world where when an emergency arises, a person can get the support they need to remain in housing. And if they ever lose their home, they are moved into housing quickly by a system that knows them and what they need. Homelessness is rare, brief when it happens, and never becomes a way of life. The truth is, we don't have to just imagine it. In the Gulf Coast region of Mississippi, any veteran who becomes homeless is connected to housing within 30 days of identification. No one's left behind. And they aren't the only ones. Across the country, communities in Built for Zero are proving that homelessness is solvable. They do it by shifting their methodology and their mindset. First, they build a single team that is accountable for ending homelessness across the community. Who's responsible for ending homelessness in your community? The truth is, many stakeholders hold a piece of the solution, but no one has their eye on how the pieces fit together. In Built for Zero communities, everyone who serves the population works together to align their collective efforts behind a shared goal. Second, they commit to a shared aim of ending homelessness. Often, success for those working on homelessness is defined by how their individual programs perform. Built for Zero communities measure progress by whether they are collectively driving down the number of people experiencing homelessness. Their goal is to reach functional zero, a dynamic milestone that ensures homelessness stays rare and brief. Are fewer people experiencing homelessness than can be routinely housed? Once they reach functional zero for veterans or people experiencing chronic homelessness, they work to sustain it and scale that learning to the next population, until their systems are built to end homelessness for all. Third, they know everyone experiencing homelessness by name and in real time. You can't solve a problem that you can't see, and homelessness is a dynamic problem that is constantly changing. But it's often tracked using an annual anonymous street count, which is just a snapshot. To end homelessness, a community needs a video. Built for Zero communities maintain by name data on who's experiencing homelessness in real time. They understand not only every individual's needs, but the dynamics of the population as a whole. They know who is entering homelessness, who is actively experiencing it, and who is exiting it. That way, they can target where systems can be improved, test new ideas, and track whether their efforts are actually driving numbers down. Finally, they make data-driven targeted investments. Expanding housing resources is crucial, but many cities have dramatically done so without making a dent in homelessness. The reason? They never fix the housing system. Real-time data enables communities to secure and target housing resources to drive the greatest possible reductions in homelessness. Homelessness is a big and complex problem, but it's not too big or complex to be solved. While it affects those who experience it in the deepest way, it affects less than 1% of the population. Communities can build systems that continually eliminate it and ensure everyone has a place to call home and live with dignity. We can take steps together toward a future where homelessness being rare and brief is the norm, not the exception. Is your community a part of it?
So hopefully that provides a bit more context about this by name list approach and Build for Zero. To make this even, I guess, more concrete, in addition to working with the city of Sonoma right now, I'm also working with the city of Petaluma. And for the past almost year and a half, we've also been implementing a by name list. So we're, I guess, 18 months ahead of where we are in Sonoma Valley. But just to, again, make this very concrete of how this can begin to change a system of care. So just on a basic level, we also in Petaluma have all of the local service providers that might be working with people experiencing homelessness in a room together every week. It's the virtual room, but in a room together every week, coordinating care for people to really make sure that we have a housing strategy identified for them, that we're doing everything that we can to try to get them back inside as quickly as possible. So that's the obvious and most important benefit, is just getting everyone on the same page. We've also used it for resource planning. So understanding who's on the list, what kind of housing interventions they need. That's helped inform community level investments like the city of Petaluma deciding to invest in Project Home Key and creating a 60-unit permanent supportive housing facility, which will be coming online in the spring. So that's another great way to use the list and understanding who's on it. And then lastly, the city of Petaluma in partnership with COTS back in the spring launched this program. It's a non-congregate shelter program called People's Village. And People's Village is taking referrals directly from the local by name list. So in essence, all the local partners are working together. And even though COTS is the provider of that program, they're taking input from the broader team about who should be going into these units based on what the community level need is. So that's how it can really begin to manifest in a very different system in a community. So top line, we've begun this process in Sonoma. And just a disclaimer at the top, this is always kind of a bit of a moving target. My goal is always, 95% is a pretty good, target rate for making sure you have everyone on the list. But working with local providers, we found that there were 179 names of different people that had been sort of served in some capacity throughout this calendar year. Of that, 156 were unique individuals. So what's interesting is, as you can see in this next line, about 82% of people that are experiencing homelessness are only working with one provider. So there's not as much service duplication as we might expect. So I think that's kind of an interesting finding. The other finding is that, again, despite I think what sometimes might be a perception, only about a fifth of people that were on the list had any sort of police or fire involvement over the last calendar year. But what's important, and this goes back to finding number 2 from the original report, is that about 80% of that 20% were not connected with local providers. So I think that speaks to this kind of chronic homeless issue of needing to make sure that the most vulnerable people that have the most complex needs are being identified, and we find a way to serve them even when it might be challenging. Encouragingly, in terms of next steps, today actually, after many weeks and months of kind of getting to this point, today was actually our very first sort of coordination meeting. So I really want to give my kudos to FISH and SOS and Homeless Action, the county, Home First, which is the countywide coordination provider. We're all there today. Police have been involved in the past. Fire has been involved in the past. Community Health Center has been involved. And there's been a commitment to meet weekly, basically indefinitely. We're going to meet every week and try to work together on this by name list. Again, we're really trying to iron out the data sharing to make sure that we're respecting people's privacy and we're in compliance with that. We're identifying lead agencies for who's going to be engaging which individuals on the list. We're trying to prioritize people for the countywide assessment for homeless housing resources. And also then when those resources are available, trying to strategize next steps on placement. So this, again, is a major shift from where we were just a couple weeks ago. So I think it's a good sign of what's to come. Just briefly, I'll touch on, and certainly if you have questions, just naming some other efforts. What we're doing in Sonoma Valley is not unique to just the Sonoma Valley. There are discussions that are happening at the county level based on the county's involvement with Build for Zero to basically replicate this in every part of the county. So, Petaluma's already doing this, North County's already doing this in some ways. So ideally, we're actually in a way kind of piloting this for other parts of Sonoma County, which is exciting. So I wanted to share that. I also wanted to share that there are currently efforts among local providers to try to, raise more grant funds from the state or other kind of federal sources. So that's something that's actively happening right now to try to bring more resources, capital, operating money to the region. And then lastly, and I don't want to totally speak for them, but you've probably seen, or if you've been driven by the site, that encouragingly, Homeless Action Sonoma has broken ground on their project, and they're beginning to install the tiny homes at their site that are going to serve as non-congregate shelter. And at least from what I heard today, the goal is to try to have those units in place by Christmas time or the winter holidays. So a lot of things happening in addition to the by name list, but that's where I've been mainly focusing my efforts. So with that, I appreciate your listening to this presentation, and I'm happy to have any questions or feedback that you might have.
Thank you, Andrew. No. Okay. Andrew, I have a question. This morning or this afternoon, you have the meeting with the supervisor and SOS and also HAS, right? And also the Sioux, did you attend? Oh, okay. What is the major and the issue for today's and the meeting? Could you please share with us?
Sue, I don't know if you want to respond. I wasn't in a meeting today with Supervisor Gorin, but.
No, it wasn't, Supervisor Gore wasn't in the meeting. This was just the by name list for SOS. He's speaking about that. And Supervisor Gorin wasn't at the meeting. It was SOS, HAS, Homeless, or Built for Zero, and Andrew. Lisa was also in the meeting. Yeah. Fish.
Yeah,
and Fish.
Fish.
Yes.
And Home First, they're the coordinated entry provider for the county. There was county staff there, just not, there weren't elected officials there.
All right. Yeah, please.
To what extent are we involved or not involved with or a victim of the governor's decision to stop funding based on the plans that have been submitted?
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, the past 3 years, there's been a program called HAP, which I can't remember exactly what HAP stands for, but it's been a...
Well, there's 150 acronyms, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it's like the Homeless Help Assistance Program, something to that extent. But yeah, so HAP, this was, there's been 3 rounds of HAP so far. And it's been a relatively flexible pool of funding that communities can use. It's primarily in Sonoma County. Well, I should say there's an allocation that goes to the COC, which is the Continuum of Care, which is the county-wide body of stakeholders that determines how different state and federal funding sources are used. And then there's also funding that's given to the county. But I think the county has been mostly working with the COC to direct that locally. But Sonoma County gets about $8.5 million per year from HAP. And the governor has been rather discouraged by some of the metrics and goals that different communities throughout the state have been putting forward. So he put a temporary hold on that funding. So I think the belief is that that funding will be released at some point, but $9 million is a lot of money. So I can't speak to exactly how HAP specifically might be funding local programs. I think generally, I don't think it is. But countywide, it's a major hit because that's funding supportive housing programs, it's funding shelter programs, all of which, as we begin to work more closely through the binding list, could be referring people to those different resources. So if they're not funded or not available anymore, that will definitely be a major hit to us. So fingers crossed. I hope it's more political than a meaningful long-term cutoff, but it is definitely concerning.
I think that, you know, to dismiss it as purely political is a mistake. Listen, everything's political, right? But the reality is that my understanding is it had a lot to do with the plans that were submitted, that he was dissatisfied with the plans. You know, and I know at least in several larger cities, in Sacramento, where the mayor there is actually an ally of the governor, I mean, they rejected their plans. So to what extent are the plans in the county and our plans going to be changed or ramped up or whatever in order to continue to receive these funds? Because that could be Project Home Key. I mean, there's a lot of money in the state budget for this program, and there should be. I mean, it's a pressing need of the people of the state. So, I mean, I wouldn't want us to just sit back and hope that it's going to blow over and he's then going to release the money. We're looking at a large budget deficit in the state, so I think he's going to be looking at that very closely. So I guess my long-winded question is, what are we doing to change our plans in order to make sure that we receive these monies?
Well, that would probably be a question for county staff, because county staff is both the lead agency representing the COC, and of course the county is getting their own funding through HAP. So, yeah, I mean, I know that they're definitely on it. I mean, I've been in meetings where they're actively talking with the state and figuring out a better course of action moving forward. I think as it relates to Sonoma Valley specifically, and I think I mentioned this in some aspect in the original report to the city, I think what's unique about the Valley, and this is, you know, in some ways a strength and a challenge, is that most of the local programming is privately funded. So, you know, SOS, as an example, is almost entirely privately funded. FISH is they're entirely privately funded. Most of what Homeless Action is doing is privately funded. Even right now for the shelter program that Homeless Action is launching, they've received some money through CDBG CV, which is a federal program. So that's not touched by the governor's decision. And that's money that I believe is going towards the operation of the site. But otherwise, according to Annie, it's privately funded. So I think it puts us at a deficit in terms of being able to get our folks into broader countywide programs. But I don't think it'll have a material impact on what's currently being offered in the Valley, for better or worse. And I also say, you mentioned Home Key. At least at the moment, I don't know that Home Key has faced the same pressure. I think Home Key has been pretty successful in meeting the governor's aims of bringing new units online as rapidly as possible. So all indications are that there will be another round of Project Home Key in the spring, and that could be another source of trying to acquire or redevelop local units. It is a different funding stream.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you, Andrew. You know, first of all, you make sense out of nonsense, but you know we're having problems at COC. We don't trust the numbers. That's an issue for us, and there's even a concern that maybe we should contract out to a vendor to actually do the counts, and that's number one. The other thing is Sonoma Valley, really there is a geographic inequity. If you look at this county, if they have an encampment, we get all of our housing taken away because they will go into LG. Even though we're promised 15 huts, if there's an encampment that empties out and there's anything left, they will take what's supposed to be promised to us. So those things are we know at COC it's inequitable. And, you know, a lot of the services are along 101, Petaluma, you know, they've been doing this for decades, COTS. We used to, I guess SOS would get housing at COTS, which was wonderful. But then now, you know, the housing paradigm has changed. You accept anybody with any kind of a problem. Our shelter was too small to do that. We couldn't accept people who had mental issues, well, behavioral issues, drug or alcohol issues. That was huge. COTS could do that. They also have, you know, which is wonderful, the integrity houses. So those are the things that have been working and continue to work, and they get the money, which is nothing wrong with it. I think HAS is an important project, but it seems to be stumbling, and now we don't have a winter shelter. So what are people doing? We're getting sleeping bags and sanding them out. So we're really at a loss here, I think, in the valley, that we don't have our winter shelter. I mean, it was traditionally a church alliance, I think, many years ago. The pastor left. And then, of course, we don't have COVID money, which means that we can't get the hotel rooms unless somebody would like to donate $200,000 to house people for a few months until the weather warms up. So there are a lot of moving parts, and I think what you're doing, you're trying to bring it all together. But I think some of those are the real factors, and I will tell everyone out there who's listening, the amount of money that comes to homeless is decadent, and I don't know where it all goes. And those are some of the things that are really scary. And I think it's really something that's very important for people to understand and to follow the money of how things get spent. And I think SOS traditionally has been doing a good job for many years. Fish, there are other places, you know, other organizations, and as I said, HAS is very important to the valley. But the problem is now we don't have a winter shelter because the promise is that they're going to be open in December. And guess how cold it is? Right now, it's cold. So, you know, it's not a secret. I was a homeless child, not in tradition today. We were sleeping on couches and floors and things like that. And thank God my mother got remarried when I was 14. And this man saved my life until the day he died. I told him he saved my life. So I'm just I was an ordinary kid who was in a very bad situation. But I think that's part of what's going on, you know. Safe parking, nobody likes it here, but guess what? Other cities are starting them up. So, you know, it's a very difficult problem. I appreciate your being at the 30,000 foot level to look down at us, to possibly have us coordinate. We have coordinated entry, but as I've noticed, even if encampment's empty, forget coordinated entry. It's the number that takes priority over the need. That's just my experience in COC, and I would be happy to be corrected. But I appreciate your hard work.
You got some member.
Andrew, could you please, you know, share some ideas regarding Councilmember Agrimonte, you know, mentioned some issue. For example, I know we already have winter shelter in the Sonoma Valley for 6 years, but this year it's kind of, you know, only in 1 year, and we don't have this kind of service. We have a lot of the pressures. We also feel like shamed. You know, looks like, you know, every year getting worse and worse. They couldn't get any more services.
Yeah, so two things I heard from Councilmember Agramonte's comments were around sort of the geographical equity of services, and then this issue specifically of the winter shelters. So, you know, like Councilmember said, you know, I think the hope is that Homeless Action will be able to get their project up in the next month or so, and then people can start moving in, and that will begin to meet at least some of the historic need there. So again, hopefully the project continues to move forward at the pace that it is. You know, whether or not the city is interested in or wants to have a partnership with the county to try to bring back some form of winter shelter, I think that is certainly a question. I don't know that I have a concrete recommendation for you of of how to approach that. What I will say is today, I mean, we know that this is an issue, and in our again, our first by name list meeting, we actually spent a good chunk of it talking about this very issue. So I think what's important is that we now have a forum whereby all of the local partners, city, fish, SOS, homeless action, can come together and talk about what do we collectively need in terms of resources and advocate for it. So, you know, historically the funding for the winter shelter was coming from the county. My understanding is that across the county, this is a program that's not going to be continuing in the way that it has in the past. So I think rather than having individual agencies having conversations with the county about what alternatives might look like, we can have a more of a, I guess you could say, like a block or a group that's advocating together in one voice, and hopefully more impactfully by organizing that way. So if there's direction from the council tonight or other thoughts about, is this something we really want to move forward with? And you know, some of the questions today were, are there places in the city where we can allow that? So I think that's a question that might be before you this evening. The other piece around the geographic equity of services, you know, I think that is something that historically has been a challenge, and it's also something that I've heard the county acknowledge as a challenge. You know, an example I think of what Councilmember Agramani is talking about is some of the multi-service, multidisciplinary teams that the county has, such as the HEART team or the IMDT team, you know, making sure that there are ways for those teams to get to all parts of the county to serve all residents experiencing homelessness throughout the county. That is not quite where I think the community wants it. And I think that at least my impression has been that both the cities and the county are in agreement of trying to get that to a better place. So I think I think that's 100% right. The assessment is right. And it's also something that I believe there's a genuine effort underway to try to rectify some of that. And I kind of alluded to it, but right now the county and the COC are about to conclude a year-long strategic planning process with a larger Bay Area consulting firm with the strategic plan that actually does kind of start to go into some of this. So I think there is both a recognition of that, acknowledgement of that, and steps to move forward. The last thing I will say, though, is, and I think this again goes back to the power of our by name list meetings, if we can get momentum around this, is that the coordinated entry system removed shelter from being behind coordinated entry over the past few years. So like I explained with the Petaluma example, if we do have local resources, we do, especially shelter resources, we do have a lot more control over who goes into those resources. So for people that are really vulnerable and we need to get out of the weather and you know, are really going to be suffering when it's cold and don't have any other way to navigate that, if our broader team can look at our list of, you know, 150 people, whatever it is, and say these 20 people, these 30 people, 40 people, we really need a solution for them, then, you know, that's a way to approach it. So, and then of course, even at Homeless Action itself, and I don't know if Annie's there in the audience, but, you know, there might be some things to advocate to for the county around the current use permit and what's allowed at the site, even in the interim, before the units are in place, so.
So the one shout out I'd like to give is to transportation in Sonoma, Sonoma County, Brian Albee. He provides, it's free bus here, so people can travel back and forth through Boy Springs. And if they go to different food sites, that's wonderful. And he also gives SOS, I think, 100 bus passes a month, or maybe a month. People can go to services up in Santa Rosa. So I think that is really working. Nobody asks questions. Brian Albee is the least bureaucrat I've ever met. And he just sends passes every month. So that's somebody that should really be appreciated in this system. Thanks.
Thank you. If no any questions, I want to open to public. Yes.
Hello again, Robert Frank, Park and Drive. Andrew, I believe you were last with us 5 months ago in mid-June, and you said 3 key words that were very, very logic and thought collecting, and that was consolidation, catalyst, and cooperation. You didn't use those words tonight, but that's okay. We'll get to that later. Madam Madeline, you really stumbled on some breakthrough logic there, and that is, where does the damn cash go? This is a big problem in Africa, and I know that there's 54 countries that constitute the continent of Africa, but at any rate, they finally paid with intrinsics, commodities. You're absolutely correct. Where does the damn money go? So thanks to our space program, we have incredible materials. When they used to have a sports and boat show at the Cow Palace, you could wander around these tents and, they're just fantastic. So it begs the question, 1,000 years from, whenever, I'm not talking about historians, I'm talking about anthropologists. How would they look back on this time? This recurring brain tease that we have to hear every meeting, sometimes several times a meeting. What are we going to do about it? Well, maybe what we can do is just simply pay with intrinsics, pay with commodities, and take cash out of the equation, because this is a recurring problem around the world. Thank you, Madam Madeline.
Thank you.
Good evening, Andrew. I am here. It's Annie Felendez. I'm the president of Homeless Action Sonoma, and I want to address your last statement in that he said that we're looking for alternatives for the winter because it's very, very cold, and I'm asking, we need a location. We need a location to have a winter shelter or at least a warming station. We have a tent, we have a generator, we have electricity, we have heaters, we have staff. We are prepared to do this, and we just don't have a location. And we're considering, I talked to my contractor yesterday, and he said we can put it on our property if we can get the permitting from the county. As you all know, that's rather difficult. But if we can get the county to allow us to put our tent up and have a warming station, then that's what we're going to do. We have been working just about around the clock with phone calls from clients needing to go to the hospital, and that's expensive. We bring them to the hospital for hypothermia. They get treated and they get released back out. There was a client who was sleeping in the doorway of the Thai restaurant in the Springs, and one of my people picked him up and thought she would take him to a shelter, and she brought him down to the Haven, which she had thought was open, and of course the door is locked because they're not open, and so she brought him to the police station. She says, well, where can I take him? And the police told her, you can take him to Santa Rosa, or you can release him to the park. These aren't satisfactory answers. These are human beings, and the only difference between you and me and them is they don't have any money. They're not, I live in a very posh neighborhood, and there are drug addicts in my neighborhood. There are alcoholics or mentally ill. There are disabled people living in my neighborhood. The difference between them and the homeless is they have the money to hide behind doors. So if we can come up with a location or help me with the permits to get a warming station, I would really, really appreciate it. Anyway, thank you.
Annie, how large of a location do you need? Are you looking for? Like, how many people do you anticipate using it?
As many as we can fit in the location. I mean, if I have a location that will fit 10, I will put 10 people in it. If I remember the days of the Haven when they housed 8 people and serviced 40 during the day, and that's a small space, but it worked. And it wasn't ideal, but it worked, and it made people happy, and they called it the Haven, and they loved it. So we're looking to put up our tent. At the worst case scenario, it's a 40 by 60 tent. It would be a warming station. I mean, it's not ideal, but we could have the tent, and we would put up porta potties, and we would have water, and we would have heat, and that's a whole lot better than sleeping on the cement in front of the Thai restaurant. Okay.
Up on you're considering putting up a tent up on your site on the highway?
Yeah, the contractor told me yesterday that we're far enough along that we could put the tent up if we can get the permits from, the county to do this. That's where the the problem
Yeah.
lies.
How soon do you anticipate your, like the first phase of your project opening?
I am hoping and praying Christmas. I told the contractor Thanksgiving, so I'm hoping it will.
So you're really only looking for a site through, for about a month and a half, maybe?
Yes, yes. And we've been beating the bushes. We've talked to everybody, just about, except that one person who has a site that we can use, I guess. I'm just hopeful. So, yeah. Anybody else?
Who do you need to talk to at the who's holding it back at the county?
It's getting permits.
Okay, well,
You know,
who-
I'm talking to, I mean, Susan is wonderful, and she's been helping me, and, but the bottom line is it has to go through Sonoma permit. And I'm talking to them, and they just don't
What
operate
happens
as
if you
fast
put
as
up-
I would like them
What
to.
happens if you put up a tent and before you get a permit? I mean, just what would happen?
I'm not sure. We had that discussion at our board meeting tonight, as a matter of fact, and nobody really wants to go there.
Well, that
But,
doesn't make sense, but, you know,
well, it makes more sense than people dying.
well, I understand
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
hear everything you said
Yeah.
over the years,
Yeah.
and I actually am not gonna talk anymore.
Okay.
Well, I have to ask that question
Mhm.
because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think, you know, as much as here I am a sworn representative, sworn to uphold the Constitution and so forth,
Yeah.
I think my first responsibility is to my fellow humans on this planet. And, you know, whoever's holding this up at the county better get a move on because, you know, I think having
Yeah.
people dying in the streets is it's cold. The thermometer outside my front door said 20 degrees this
Right.
morning.
And I will say that we were told the county is not involved with this at all. They will not give money for the winter shelter because HAS is supposed to be ready. I don't know when it's gonna be ready, and I hope that you will be, and I know that you wanna put a tent on the property. I'm just saying, there's nothing there for people right now. I understand what you're saying. I understand.
Yeah.
I know what homeless is about. And when I go out with friends, we finish lunch, I say, you know, right now, we're going home. And people are looking for places to sleep, especially in the winter, it's very cold here. And we can't have a winter shelter because HAS said they would be ready by Thanksgiving.
I
Or
would
they
like
would
to
be ready
correct
by
that
Christmas.
statement because that is not why we don't have a winter shelter.
You need to explain it to me then.
The winter shelter last year was where?
Is it hotels, right?
Yeah,
Or-
hotels.
Yeah.
Hotels.
Okay.
That was
country
paid
is
by
a lot of money.
COVID money.
Exactly. And why is there no money this year? It's not my fault.
I didn't blame it on you. I love it that you will do that.
Yeah.
But it's the federal government is not gonna give COVID money anymore. So the
Exactly.
alternative
So
is.
that's not because I'm not on property that there's no winter
has
shelter.
nothing to do with you,
It's
Annie.
because there is no money for hotels.
Well, that's not you know what?
Oh.
You're very good at this, Annie. Sorry, I can't continue with you.
Okay.
I want to
think
thank
what-
you for everything that you're doing, Annie, and thank you, Jack, for being there for the first beginnings of what
Okay.
you have, and anything we can do to help get that tent up or help find anything for these people, we'll do so.
What kind of facility do you need? I mean, you don't need rooms, do you? You just need like an open space?
All I need
or-
is a roof.
Well, what about here?
I would love to use this.
Excuse me, you have to wait.
Hold on, yeah.
Somebody else is speaking.
I'm just saying we have community meetings a few times a month, but this room is basically empty most of the time.
It would be heaven. It would.
Well, I mean, I don't know how to take it from there, but I mean, obviously,
that's
if
a
we had to
great
have a meeting, we would have to
suggestion.
have a meeting, but,
I think that's a great
But the-
suggestion.
But here I would like to say, you know, of course, a good idea. But management, security is very important.
I
And
don't know how
also,
that would
we
all
have the and the safe in the parking program, and we also provided a security guy. We hired a company, but if the inside, that is a big issue. We definitely.
Well, if you wanted to give the chambers for a shelter, I promise you, House would pay for all the security and the staffing.
Yeah, I don't know how that
I'm
would all,
just
that would have
telling
to
you.
be worked out, but it's
I mean,
usually
if this
empty.
is a possibility, I do not want anyone to tell me, well, because we don't have money, we can't do it. We have money, we can do it. Our problem is location. We can't find a location.
How
And
about the petanque courts? That's city property. It's a clear space. There would be a place to put up a tent.
Yeah.
Just
That
to
is-
remind the council
yeah.
that this is a presentation, an update on the homeless.
All right,
presentation,
yes.
and we can't
Thank you
take
so
action.
much. Thank you for your comments. And
Shouldn't
more
have been a
public
presentation.
comments, please.
Yeah, hello, I'm Francisco Kilgore again, wearing a different hat. Thank you so much, Annie, for your presentation and for Councilmember Lowe, your concern and everything. I was not prepared to give a presentation about this, so I'm just going to give you some thoughts off the top of my head, which comes from the winter shelter that SOS has hosted for the past couple of years. So the last year the winter shelter was hosted, you're correct, it was in a hotel, it was very expensive. It was, I might be wrong, but it was in the $80,000 range for the staff per month. Very, very expensive.
And that doesn't include security.
Yeah.
That includes everything.
And food.
Total is 200,000. I know that.
Yeah, for the total, all of the period of time. But what Annie is suggesting would probably reduce the cost significantly because you're not paying a hotel for cost of rooms. When we had it, from my recollection, it was between 10 and 18 people on any given night. It was not like a consistent every single night there was 18 people, but it was between 10 and 18 people. We had 2 or 3 overnight staff who spent the night watching over everybody who was sleeping in a congregant shelter. And then more recently we hired professional security as the same that's in the safe parking lot. So that was just some context. I'm happy to provide a more detailed report, but I thought I would give that context.
Thank you. Any more public comments? If they're not here, and please look at the Zoom.
Oh, poor Andrew. Has he been able
Yeah.
to finish?
Bringing in Fred Alabak.
All right.
Thank you. I have like someone like Rebecca who can pronounce my last name correctly. I have a question for Andrew about the by name list. I'll make an example with Sonoma Basin groundwater. You know, we always say we can't manage what we can't measure, but we can't find out who the biggest users are because they don't want to be known. So here you have people who have power and property and money. They get to remain anonymous and use common pool resource that we can't figure out who they are, or somebody knows who they are, but the public doesn't know. So I just have a concern that about this by name list, that the least powerful people lose their privacy here, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 agencies who are going to know who these people are and their staff. How can you possibly guarantee that this people's names don't get out into the community and people find out, like, well, so and so's sister is homeless or whatever? It seems like that's an awful big risk for these people's privacy. So that's a concern of mine, that the least powerful have their rights possibly compromised by this system here. So I'm just curious what kind of checks are in place here to prevent some staffer from Fish or the clinic or whoever from telling their friend, and then it's out. It doesn't seem like that it would. I don't see how the system would guarantee people's privacy in this. And also, I just would like to say that I really admire Annie Philandis and what one person can do who doesn't feel like they wanted to sit around playing cards for the rest of their life, what a big difference they can make. So I really admire Annie a lot. So that's my question for you, Andrew. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. Any, okay. If no more public comments, I want to close public comments. And if we have any more discussion, we can discussion, but today's an agenda, that is item for presentation. Presentation, that means information. Yeah, as to the resolution, that is a big than an item. Yeah, hopefully we can put an agenda on the next, on the city council and the C, and we can find a resolution.
Right, I kind of wanted Andrew to answer the question about the by names list and how those people are protected.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you gave me the chance to respond to that. I wanted to respond as well. No, it's a really good question, and it's one that I would almost say the reason that we haven't started coordinating more yet is because we want to get that right. So I think what is important to know is that I guess a couple things. One is, I mean, that could inherently happen at any time with current providers. My impression is that that is not happening, but I think what you described, the by name list, does not somehow inherently make that happen, number one. So if there was, let's say, a quote-unquote bad actor at a local provider who wanted to redisclose, that would be, I think, something independent of this kind of cooperation framework where they're sharing names. What we're trying to do, and this is something that already exists in Sonoma County, has existed for many years, is that when people access services in Sonoma County at any provider, there is a release information that they can sign, which they're basically giving consent to allow providers to coordinate care on their behalf. So let's use an example, like someone goes to the shelter program at COTS, and then they say that they're looking for a certain kind of help. If they've signed the release and they've given their consent to sign the release, that would then allow COTS to reach out to, X, Y, or Z provider throughout the county that offers that service that they're seeking to try to coordinate care, since they would also be on the release. So that's a process that's been in place in Sonoma County for a long time, and the county monitors that. The coordinated entry provider that I mentioned, Home First, they're very serious about it. And if you violate any of their policies around data sharing or redisclosure, you're booted from the system. So again, so I think the by name list, we can't control if there's like a bad actor in a local provider. I hope that never happens. But if any of us are not providing data correctly or sharing data correctly, then we're booted from the system and can't participate in this kind of data sharing forum. So that does exist. The other thing I would say too is that people can just say no. They can say, I don't want to sign a release, and that's not a denial or in any way blocking you from accessing services in the system. It might make it a little bit more challenging to talk to different partners in the system, but it doesn't block people. It's not like a threat of like, if you don't sign the release, then you can't access services. That's not at all how the system works. It's more of an enhancement to make the system work better. So just to share all that. So what we're trying to do is we would only be really coordinating care for people that have already consented to have their care coordinated, if that makes sense. And if there are people that have not been assessed or been involved in that process, then we would be talking about, hey, is there a way to engage them and get them involved? But we would not be coordinating care for anyone that has not already consented to be part of the system. And again, just to make it really clear, if there was some kind of violation or redisclosure or anything that violated the system the county already has in place, then there would be repercussions and those providers would be removed from the system.
Thank you. If anybody want to say something? Yeah, sure.
Just a final, I don't know if it's a final comment from me. That what I took from your presentation and the video is one of the key components. There's two takeaways for me. One is something that I talk about all the time, is that the first thing about prevention and making sure the problem doesn't get worse.
Recording in progress.
And that speaks to providing the kind of housing
Recording
that we
stopped.
need. Thank you, whoever that is. Um, the kind of housing we need and the kind of support we need for people that are currently housed to remain housed and to help them stay housed. That's number one. Number two is that all of the various groups that are out there trying to do this good work need to work together. And that if there should be no finger pointing or blame game, everybody's got to roll up their sleeves and work together. And that's what I saw from your presentation, and that's what I take away. So if we can do those two things, aside from also finding a place for this warming center, that is, make sure the problem doesn't get worse by providing safety nets to people, make sure they stay housed, work together as best we can, and in the immediate, find a place to house folks. And if we can do those things, we can maybe have some success into something that's a very, very difficult program. But at least let's try.
Thank you. Thank you, some members. All right. Thank you, Angel. It's a wonderful presentation. Sue, do you have anything to?
No, I just wanted to thank Andrew again for the work that he's done. And it was really exciting to be in the meeting today with all of the providers and, talking about the by name list and, what steps we're going to take. It really warmed my heart to have everybody together, working together. So, and I think it's a big accomplishment that Andrew has made. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Recording
Angel.
in progress.
Thank you.
Before we move to the next
Recording
item, I would like to take a 5 minutes break.
I think that's called ghosting, right?
No.
No.
That's not ghosting?
Wait. No, ghosting is something else.
No, but people, no, I know we're all
Ghosting is not
laughing
agenda.
and
Mr. Mayor, could you please turn on your microphone? Thank you.
Right now is 8:52. I would like to have another motion. Can we continue out of the meeting after the 9 o'clock?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much. Agenda number 5, consent calendar. All items listed on consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by a single motion. Total today we have the 5.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any? Okay. All right. If there are no, I want to open to public. If any in the comments. I've seen none. How about Zoom? Anybody? All right. Okay, let me close public comments. And we
I
want-
move the consent calendar.
Who second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Agenda number 6, public hearing. 6.1, discussion, consider, and take a possible action to introduce an ordinance amending the Sonoma Municipal Code, amending the Title 19, Chapter 19.40, General Property Development and Use Standards, to remove subjective language and establish objective standards, and the finding this action is exempt from further environmental review under the general rule in California Environmental Quality Act, (SEQA) guidelines, Section 15061B3, that SEQA only applies to projects that have the potential for causing a significant effect on environment. I would like to hand over to David Storr, our planning director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'll make this very brief. In fact, I'll warn you right now, it's a 4-slide PowerPoint tonight, so I think I've got it memorized. I'll make it very brief. This is a proposed ordinance that's been reviewed by your planning commission and recommended for approval. It contains cleanups and changes to our municipal code, primarily to assist in housing production and also to make some of our requirements mandatory, using the word shall instead of shoulds, making it objective as opposed to subjective. Just very briefly, we're talking about changing some definitions as well. The basic thing tonight, and this is the main slide, there's about 12 different areas of our zoning code in this one particular section of our code, 19.40, I believe, where, for example, in Creekside Development, we've removed a waiver provision that basically doesn't really give you any kind of idea as to whether you'll get one or not. We've kind of cleaned that up. We've removed that and required different types of reviews by the Planning Commission. For example, instead of a use permit, which pretty much allows you to do anything you want, we've tightened the belt, so to speak, to require a variance where there's specific findings that need to be made. We've changed some design standards, like reducing the height of light poles. We've created a process of an exemption versus a use permit to allow third-story multifamily units in our 2 commercial zones and also the mixed-use zone. Mostly, again, as I said, this is replacing the word shoulds to shalls, that kind of a thing. So we do have one other thing in our landscaping provisions, and there's about 45 pages, I think, of text for you to review. We've highlighted it in yellow, in red and blues, so you can see the text that we've changed. For example, in the landscape standards, you'll see there that we've required WELO data, which is quite a lot of data for water efficient landscaping and preliminary plans. There's really no need for that level of review and scrutiny. We can get that same information at the final stage once an entitlement has been granted. So This concludes staff's report. Other than recommend approval, the planning commission as well to adopt the, to introduce the ordinance tonight and then adopt it at your next meeting in December the 7th. This concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Any questions from our?
David, thank you for that report and presentation. Is it your understanding that our zoning ordinances need to be consistent with the general plan? Doesn't state law require that?
Yes, it does.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? Nothing? How about?
No, I'll save my comments.
All right. Councilman Defoe? Okay. Let me now open to public, see any in the comments.
Good evening. I'm Caitlin Cornwall, and I'm the project director for Sonoma Valley Collaborative. Just one little item sort of related to this. We submitted a lot of really detailed comments on the draft housing element and like 30 different points. And we just wanted to share that we're really happy with the next iteration of the housing element that went off to HCD. So yay. We think that's going in the right direction. But on this topic, I want to raise a couple of points. The first is that the city of Sonoma is blessed with many public parks, trails that connect to surrounding open spaces, and just walking the streets provides beautiful views and mature shade trees. The city is small, and it's surrounded on most sides by rural land uses that you get to see from the city. So that's one true thing. Also, we're in an extreme housing crisis that's forcing out generations of Sonomans and preventing younger and more diverse people from living here. And item 3, of course, is that property values are extraordinarily high here. So when you put all those facts together, it means that our space inside the city is incredibly precious, the space inside the UGB. And given how much public open space is already provided by Sonoma itself and its surroundings, Sonoma Valley Collaborative's members ask you to prioritize welcoming and incentivizing affordable, accessible housing instead of holding on to large requirements for open space and setbacks in residential, live, work, and mixed-use zones. Our members would ask you to reduce the 300 square feet per unit of public open space and reduce setbacks for housing projects that provide units that are affordable, whether they're affordable because they're smaller or if they're affordable because they're deed restricted. I know you had a comment letter from Generation Housing on this same topic, and they suggested a couple of detailed ways that you could reduce those requirements. Those are some ways. I'm sure there are other ways, but generally, many of your constituents who are members of Sonoma Valley Collaborative, business owners, organizations that work with kids and seniors, environmental advocates, health organizations, and first responders are really quite desperate for you to make Sonoma more welcoming and actually incentivizing of affordable housing. And this is one really clear way that you could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kitty. If you know from this room, yeah, please.
I'm going to bring in Fred Alabach.
That's good.
Let me switch.
Good evening, Mayor Ding and City Council again. In aggregate with this ordinance, I get the sense that that it's highly limiting city use of space. And with the UGB putting clamp on any new space and large in-city lots and short supply, the city seems to be doubling down on low-density suburban character, which has the effect of being a constraint on housing. Curious what the aggregate effect of this ordinance is on affirmatively furthering fair housing law, and if this has been considered. when we look at the SDC process, we see people up the Glen Ellen Way looking to Sonoma to lead in Valley Smart Growth infill. Why don't we put this all in the city area? And the city's Housing Our Community series recommended 725 new units during the sixth cycle, and that didn't happen. I agree with Cal Weeks and Generation Housing public comment and Caitlin's comments here on this item that the open space requirements for multifamily developments add up to a constraint on housing. The open space, let's see, I've already, that could be space for many more units. And I think also that 3 stories should be allowed in all zones, and that single-family zoning should not have a get-out-of-jail-free card on density, particularly for very low and low-income units. Zoning changes are called for to open up the space that's wasted, underutilized space in 65% of the city, which is single-family zoning. And also, tax credit allocation committee high and median resource opportunity areas on the east side call for affirmatively furthering fair housing treatments and dense housing beyond plexes. So I object to the multifamily housing only being in mixed use and commercial areas, because you have 65% of the city that's basically underutilized space that needs to be broken into as well. For this ordinance, I agree that the historic center of town shouldn't be marred by garish homes looking down from above, even though the rest of the valley has got hillside homes everywhere. And the landscaping requirements seem kind of onerous to me to require irrigation, in some sense mandates that people use and waste water. What if someone doesn't want plants and irrigation? I think if you want to regulate people's use of land in this way, outlaw turf and grass. For performance standards, I'm questioning the city's noise ordinance and whether there's enforcement for that. The screen and buffer, I don't really see anything wrong with seeing garbage cans and AC units. What's wrong with seeing the real stuff? It seems in some ways that this is analogous to a homeowners association with people who are just making too many rules. The setbacks is also a way to limit space, and the sheer number of setback rules here was really astounding to read. And the scenic vistas limits the use of space as well, because building up is the way to go to maximize space. So to conclude, I think that the ordinance here limits use of space and makes a constraint on housing, and this should be looked at in light of affirmatively furthering fair housing and for affordable housing, like Caitlin was saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fred. Any more? All right. Right now, I would like to close public comments. Thank you.
So under the previous language where it was like should and not shall, these particular guidelines regarding open space, are there examples where that was actually more permissive and we were able to build higher density or permit higher density because they didn't have to have this much square footage? I can think of a few places that kind of fit that description, but I wanted to see if.
I'll see if I can wrap that up into the comments and then also what you just said. And,
Yeah.
and if I missed something, let's circle back. I guess I want to say, if you go to table 4-1 and table 4-2 in your packet, I apologize, there's not page numbers there, but the minimum open space requirements for multifamily and for commercial and mixed-use developments have not changed. As presently constituted, it says you shall provide these open space types of amenities, if you will. What we've done is and we've not changed the 300 foot. Those numbers are there, not been modified. Planning Commission didn't modify them or recommend that they be modified. What we've done, for example, when it comes to the qualitative aspect of that open space in either of those different types of zones, for example, required open space shall be located on site. There's a shall, didn't have to change it. But the next 2 or 3 or 4 provisions of how it's configured. Open space shall, now reads shall, be required as opposed to should, be provided as continuous usable site elements that reinforce or enhance other aspects of the site plan, such as pedestrian networks, view corridors, and environmental features. So when you have the should in there, we've gone into the shells, and we're trying to let the world know, the development community, that when you come to Sonoma, you're going to be doing this now as opposed to working your way around it through the shoulds. And it basically binds a project applicant to provide these amenities in the way that we've articulated. Talking about, again, oriented towards pedestrian circulation, to incorporate seating, enhance paving materials, lighting, shade trees, and the like. So we've not changed that. We've only put the shoulds to shells. When it comes to the height limitations, we've just chosen the one to allow up to, the height limit hasn't changed, but squeezing in a 3rd story under that height limit is the goal for the mixed use zone.
So my question is, so before, when it wasn't should, and it was shall, and, the other way around.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's 9:08, all right? And the coffee's worn off a long time ago. So did they have more leeway, and because it wasn't a requirement, and so forth?
You have, whenever you exercise discretion, it may be different from one project to the other. And in Sonoma, no property is alike, so to speak, when it comes to vacant land and developing it. So I really don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, okay, so if I could just real briefly. So I guess my point being is that I understand that all of those numbers have not changed, that we've changed one word that begins with an S. And I understand that because I see the difference in the 2 versions. But I do find a need to somehow in here address the issues that have been raised by the speakers and by the letter that we received, because it gets back to our previous very long conversation about the need to provide shelter in the valley. And if there's any way that we can increase the number of affordable by design or by deed restricted dwellings, then I think we're doing something to help our community. So I don't, I understand that they're the same, and honestly, in a perfect world, of course, wouldn't you want to have some open space and some nice things around you? Of course, but we're in a sort of a crisis situation, and is there a way that we can sort of thread that needle a little bit and provide a little bit more leeway so we can put in more units? I would like to see that.
Yes.
Thank you. I think it's important to state that open space for like a lot of these new development projects isn't like a park. I mean, it is sort of like a sidewalk with trees. A lot of these new projects now, because of new requirements, they need swales on site. Like, for example, that new site or that new project on the corner of 5th Street West and West Spain, it was built maybe 7 years ago. All that, it's open space, but it's basically frontage on 5th Street West as a swale, and that counts for that project's open space. And so, I understand what you're saying, and I do want to, obviously, make sure that we continue to streamline the code and allow as many housing opportunities as possible. But the way I think the code is written and actually practically used for open space is generally not what I think the common usage of that term is. I mean, it's sort of practical, and most of this, generally I would say a site has to have some sort of open space, especially, depending on what the project looks like, And so from what I remember on the Planning Commission, that requirement was often satisfied through, just landscaped pathways and swales, and I can't think of a project really that has been developed recently that actually had open space in the sense that I think we all think of it as. Like even that new Mockingbird, like their open space was satisfied. I mean, it wasn't, there's no park there, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of the times, even with Hummingbird, open space is usually the last piece to have been added to a site. And I think what this tightening up is trying to get people to articulate where to place it and have a meaningful place for congregation. The maybe perhaps heretical, I mean, I would rather preserve open space the way that the code is saying and give up off-street parking requirements, because you're then forcing people into other modes of transportation. I mean, it's a very delicate balance, but you're not
I'm
giving
for
up
that.
land. Well, I know there's a trend going on, folks, but the point being is, how do you balance all of those things together? Open space is not the only piece. Like Vice Mayor said, you may have a bioretention pond or something that you can use as joint uses, and those are good things to have if you can design them.
And then, yes, thank you, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. I just think that, we should, use as much of the footprint for housing, I suppose, is the general comment. And then the other thing is, because you did mention parks, it is important to put in parks in places where there is more high-density housing, like on 5th Street West and MacArthur, and not just use it for other purposes. So this is just my way of, once again, reminding people of the beautiful park that we're going to have at some point on 5th Street West and MacArthur, so that when we build this more high-density housing, people will have a wonderful place to recreate near their home. Thank you.
Council Felder.
I think it's important to remember that state law is now requiring us to have objective standards in the code rather than subjective standards. And I realize that this is a first step, but it's an important step to take as soon as possible so we don't have a conflict with state law to get shalls in there when we had shoulds. I go along with you that we should take another look at the code and decide if there are better ways that we can get more affordable housing onto properties. But to go through that kind of a review of the ordinance would just delay it to the point that you can always change the ordinance. You can always improve the ordinance. But it's better to get it on the books matching state law at this point and get done with that part and then move on to the next part.
That's great. Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, and I think this is a good segue into my comment. When I applied to be on the Planning Commission in 2017, in my application, I said I was very excited to join, if I could be appointed to the Planning Commission, because it was time to update the general plan. The general plan was passed, or I think approved in 2006, but it was the result of a 2 to 3 year process where the community really came together and developed sort of our guiding principles for the next, I think it was supposed to be through 2020, and so it's outdated. Yeah. But the general plan is our constitution, basically. And as I asked David at the beginning, because I got these letters and I understand them and I obviously take them seriously. At the same time, state law doesn't allow us to pass ordinances that conflict with the general plan. And the general plan, in both the community development element and then the environmental resources element, it says things like retain and create small pockets of open space, require open space in new development. In the community development section on page 31, open space areas should be accessible and provided in new development. There are many different parts of the general plan that talks about that. And so what I think this conversation is basically saying is, it's time, considering the context of our housing crisis, considering it's 2022 and not 2004, we really need as a city to come together and sort of think about what is Sonoma going to look like in 2050 and come up with a general plan that describes that vision. And so then the development code in the future can reflect that new general plan. So what I think the Planning Commission is doing is just implementing our current general plan, which is what they're supposed to do. And so, so I think it's just another way of saying it's time to update our general plan.
I have a question regarding the density on open space. I'm a wonder, right now out in the code, housing code, and the story limit in the 2 or in the 3, or can you share some of the background for this?
Yeah, within each of your zoning districts, you have a height limitation, and we're not changing any of those numbers. So let's say the number is 35 feet. We're just saying that within certain zones, in the mixed-use zone or commercial zones, if you want to squeeze in three stories, you can do that. Then you obviously have to have a ripple effect. Whereas right now in the mixed-use zone, for example, you can't have 3 stories, but with a use permit, you might be able to.
I haven't seen any, new construction. They have the 3 and the story, just with this height limitation, right? 35.
This will allow for a 3rd story, but we're not going to be increasing the height.
Okay. This height amount. Where is addressed for?
Are you talking about the one that we're talking about allowing for the mixed use? Yeah, I'll find it for you. Let me get back to you, Mr. Mayor. There's a diagram there
just
where we've got the change.
Yeah.
I believe it's on page 13, or begins on page 12 of 41 of the packet related to structure heights.
Yeah, there's a, might be easier, Mr. Mayor, if you look for the diagrams, it looks like a house on a hillside, and it's the text right after that. Talks about how you measure the height and exceptions to it. And if you look at the subsection B1, it talks about 3rd floor residential units. Within commercial gateway and the mixed use, you have a maximum height of 35, and you can accommodate a 3rd floor in multifamily. It can also, you can also be granted additional height with an exception. We allow a certain percentage over that standard. I believe it's up to a third, up to 30% more, but you have to apply for an exception to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That is in a zoning that is mixed, or in the commercial zoning. Both. Okay.
Both of your commercial zones and mixed use.
Okay.
For multifamily.
Thank you. Good to know. Any more questions? What are we? Looks like we don't have any questions. Do you have anything to?
No, we just
say?
need a motion and a second, and then it'll come back on your consent calendar for adoption at your next meeting on December 7th.
Yeah, so we're looking for a motion to introduce this ordinance, and you can just read it from the agenda, but you don't have to read the CEQA findings.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce an ordinance amending the Sonoma Municipal Code, amending Title 19, Chapter 19.40, General Property Development and Use Standards, to remove subjective language and establish objective standards, and finding this action is exempt from further environmental review under the general rule in CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3.
Who second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Burnett.
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte.
Aye.
Councilmember Felder.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Agenda number 7, regular calendar. 7.1, consideration, discussion, and the possible action to approve resolution authorizing the city staff to work with the local organizations, programming the holiday events and activities to occur in the own historic Sonoma Plaza November through the December 2022, waiving the corresponding the plaza use and the film permit fees associated with the activities. I would like to hand over to Lisa. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Ding and City Council members. I'm here tonight to discuss the holiday programming. City staff met with the Sonoma Valley Chamber of Commerce. We met with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau, and we also met with the Vintners and Growers Alliance. In our discussion, we focused on how to best leverage our beautiful light installation, which will be turned on November 19th, and with the key goal of really trying to focus on economic development and trying to drive residents and visitors here to Sonoma to sip, shop, and enjoy our wonderful retail businesses. So in the staff report, I did want to share with you some of the already scheduled events. Please note, not all of the events on your list are sanctioned City of Sonoma events, meaning they come through me as far as getting approved. The list isn't complete, as some of the local organizations were still finalizing the details, but I am excited to share tonight that the holidays on the Northern Frontier, aka the Christmas at the Mission, is programmed to take place on Saturday, December the 10th, starting at 5 p.m. There'll be 3 shows, 5 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m., and tickets will be going on sale this Saturday. So that seems to be a very cherished event here in Sonoma, and the tickets can be hard to get. So I encourage people that are listening tonight to put that on their calendar if they're interested. During our discussion, we did come up with a list of potential event ideas. Some of these ideas are not original, and they're based on previous year's discussions that I've had with nonprofits when I've been approached. Often when we start talking about the plaza use agreements, I kind of get that, well, oh, the cost is really expensive. So sometimes they move forward, sometimes they don't, based on the cost of the plaza use agreements. But I did want to go and kind of share these ideas with you, and we're open to other ideas as well. But these were the ideas that the group came up with. So the first idea is a classic holiday movies in the Grinstead Amphitheater. We're looking at musical performances provided by the nonprofit Music in Place. They recently did receive a $10,000 TID grant for programming, and they have 4 acts that they're looking to do on the Saturdays in December from 2 to 5 p.m. And most of those will be roving if approved. And the last performance would be the Friday, December the 23rd, leading into the holiday. We're also looking for your approval or authorization for staff to work with local nonprofits on a holiday food or coat drive. In the past, I've been asked, and in order to do something like that, they would have to get a plaza use agreement to use the front historic horseshoe. So I'm looking for permission to do that. Also, we're looking at an idea that came up as history seems to be top of mind lately. Maybe there's an opportunity to work with one of our local historic nonprofits to program the Grinstead Amphitheater with a historical reading or a short holiday themed period piece. Also on the list was to authorize the staff to coordinate a selfie station, which, being a mother of young kids seems to be a really hip thing to do. One of the ideas that came out of that one is if we were to do something on the plaza, we could actually link it to other selfie stations at other winery locations and in the valley, and kind of do this collaborative thing where if you go to all the different locations and you take your selfies and you post it, hashtag it, using our hashtag, then you would be entered to win a gift basket the Chamber of Commerce or the Visitors Bureau would be putting together along with the Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers. Another idea that has recently come up was the Chamber of Commerce would like to program a family photo day to coincide with a small business Saturday, which is November the 26th. The Chamber of Commerce is looking to work with a couple local photographers to host saying relatively inexpensive drop-in professional photo shoot on the historic Sonoma Plaza. So there would be a backdrop which the photographers would be using a backdrop that's set up. It would be temporary. It wouldn't be an all-day thing, and it wouldn't be probably on the historic front lawn unless we had your permission. Any individual who purchases a gift at any of our local stores or retail establishments would receive a discount on their photos, and the chamber is asking for the pre-authorization and the waiving of the plaza use as well as the film permit. And the last idea is staff would like to work with local theater groups or musical groups, including our Sonoma Hometown Band, who's already reached out, and or dance troupes to program outdoor holiday productions inside the Grinstead Amphitheater, weather permitting, of course. All of these ideas are designed to attract visitors to our downtown area. Where hopefully after participating in some fun activity in the plaza, they'll walk across the street. And like I said, our goal is to get them to shop, sip, and dine with our local merchants. The program also allows us to work with our local nonprofits to provide extra activities for the community and create some additional holiday cheer. To further leverage the proposed activities, the Chamber of Commerce is going to coordinate their annual Holiday Window Display Contest. The Vintners and Growers Alliance is going to continue to promote their holiday, the Tasting Room Holiday special promotions. And the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau will provide the Holidays in Sonoma event calendar and all the promotions that go along with that. So if approved, the additional programming would be included in our outreach and promotions by all of our partner organizations to enhance our collective efforts to provide a strong foundation that will drive economic development into the post-holiday months in the first quarter of 2023. So to just quickly wrap this up, staff is looking for City Council's approval to move forward with the proposed ideas. Not all of them will probably come to fruition, but just know that that's kind of the list, or any other ideas that you might have. And the opportunity to waive the plaza use fees and or film permit fees for those proposed activities not to exceed $6,000 in total fee waivers. So I thank you for your consideration, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lisa. As far as I know, and these kind of events usually yearly you are self-supported, but right now you waive these kind of fee, and when it bother you and you have the deficit for your budget.
No, so typically I don't have any ability to waive any fees. So what would typically happen is these events just wouldn't occur, or they would occur without electricity in the Grinstead Amphitheater because we can't turn those things on. And so what my thought was in moving this forward, and I think we've done it in the past, and I can't off the top of my head remember if it was Folklorica used the Grinstead at one point, and I think I brought something forward back in 2016 or 17. For a fee waiver, but we would collect their insurance, we'd get them to fill out the application, and we'd follow our rules, we'd just be waiving the permit fees.
All right, thank you. Yes, please.
I've been in the city when they had SantaCon. Have you ever been there?
I
you
have
seen
not.
it?
In fact, I didn't realize we had one here.
Well,
And
it's
so-
new here, but it's been around. And I'm just,
Yeah.
I don't know how well it'll fit in with carols in the Mission.
At the Mission, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be, it can get kind of wild. Just letting you know in advance, you may want to warn everybody, because I've been there, I've seen it, and it's different. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I come from a family that celebrates many traditions, including Hanukkah. And I know the word holiday is all in here, but it's really Christmas. And that's fine. I like Christmas. I like Hanukkah. My family celebrates them both. But I don't see anything in there for Hanukkah. So if you were going to add something, maybe we'd have DreidelCon or something would be fun. But there seems to be, it seems to be missing
Okay.
from this list.
Well, I can reach out to some of our faith-based organizations to see if there's something
Yeah,
that.
I don't think anyone
you know,
faith-based
isn't-
did the Santa crawl. Or, you know, honestly, it's, you know, I'm not an expert on everything faith-based, but my guess is once you see it, you'll believe me. But, you know, so I don't think it has to be a faith-based thing. I mean, I'm not saying it's religious. It's just, it's a celebration. It happens around the same time. And I just, you know me, I like to be inclusive.
Absolutely, I agree.
That's great. I would like to, oh, please.
So the $6,000 in fee waivers, these events wouldn't happen.
Correct.
So it's not really like we're losing the $6,000.
We're not
'cause it
losing
wouldn't
the
be happening at all.
$6,000.
So $6,000 value.
It's you're paying for my time.
Right. Would you, would there be any other possible events or ideas you have that would require funding beyond just waivers that we would be open to in the spirit of the holidays?
You know, it was interesting. We didn't go to that level, and I think some of those ideas probably ended up at the TID meeting. And I wasn't there at the TID meeting, so like I said, we weren't looking to fund anything outside of just trying to make it come to life.
Well, I would be open to that if you had an idea. Also, and I know we have talked about this before, and obviously it's not going to happen this year and perhaps for a while because of infrastructure, but obviously there's always been an idea to have an ice skating rink in the plaza.
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about the challenges with that, and if that is something this town wanted in the future, what would be required?
So it was really interesting. Back when I first started, I think it was actually it was probably my second year, 2017, when Cornerstone first did it. And so I reached out to, I think it was, who was it? My contact out there, Victoria, maybe? And the cost associated with that, it was like in the $80,000 range. But on top of that, the amount of electricity and the upgrade to our electrical system in the plaza, it sounded like we didn't have enough to power it. So I have to throw this over to Mike Berger. He would be the one that would be able to tell us about the infrastructure in the plaza, but that was my preliminary findings back in 2017. So I like the idea. Another idea that came up was a holiday train. There's an organization that works out of the Nut Tree Outlet Mall area in Vacaville, and they have this little holiday train that doesn't require a track, and it kind of goes around, and you could do it just in the historic horseshoe of the plaza. But the cost and just trying to get it implemented, and they really were restrictive on days that they could do it. So we didn't bring that one forth. But definitely, as we're looking maybe for next year's budget, I have some ideas. So
great, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Felder, do you have any? All right, let me open to public. Nobody here. How about from the? Oh, okay. Please. Yeah, you should. The holiday.
I thought maybe you had something to say about the holiday train.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. But the electricity issue. When we talk about expanding and expanding and expanding, before you can build above ground, you first have to have the capacity below ground. And just because it's unseen, sight unseen, doesn't mean, in other words, the devil's in the details, right? And nobody ever I've asked, talk about electricity. I live on Larkin Drive, and already the water pressure, I've mentioned this several times, the water pressure is already diminished there. You can't even support an ice rink? My God. We built a lithium-ion powered locomotive. We had to get a 400 amp service instead of a 200 amp service. At first we couldn't get it because the grid wouldn't support it. So please remember this, all right? When we talk about building above ground, I'll say again for emphasis, you have to have the capacity below ground. The only thing that checks these boxes, and I've said this again and again too, is manufactured housing. You can have mini utility. That way you don't have to tear up all your streets, right? Very expensive. Underground construction is very, very expensive. You can create mini utilities, you can get manufactured housing. I'll say it again and again. We have a world-class mobile home park in this town. It's called Moon Valley. You'll get the density you need, you get the open space you need. If the place becomes functionally obsolete, it's easy to eradicate. If it burns down, you call them the factory and you order some more. These things will be made earthquake-proof. I say it again for re-emphasis. It checks all the boxes. And I see that land there south of Moon Valley. If I had to estimate, it's probably 40, 50, 60 acres. That would create all the housing you need. It'd be affordable. You could even sell divisible interests in it so that people could start on their trek to real home ownership. Beautiful community, by the way. You can walk around and absolutely enjoy it. That's been there since the early 1960s. It stood the test of time. Thank you again.
Thank you, Robert. Anybody from Zoom? No? All right, let me close the public comments. We do you have anything to address? Oh, everything. All right.
Stand up in case you have any
Okay,
questions.
yeah, any further questions, or we can make an motion?
Move to approve.
All right.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett.
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte.
Aye.
Councilmember Felder.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe.
Aye.
Mayor Ding.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda number 8, 8.1, committee report. Council members are appointed to various boards. Any in the report? No, nothing report. I do have the report. I was appointed as County and Water, Sonoma on the Water Advisory the committee. I'm the member, and through the Sonoma on the Water, and recently I got an interview, and by the WCB or some, yes, I forgot it's in the name, interview regarding the issue of Potter Valley project. Potter Valley, Eel River, and this is very important. It's in the background I want to tell you, and the Potter Valley project and the Russian River water supply resiliency and reliability. The Potter Valley project, PVP, is a hydroelectric project recently owned and operated by the PG&E. It has been generating electricity and providing the water to Russian River basin for over 100 years. PG&E has operated PVP under the license from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that expired in April 2022, already expired. PG&E plans to surrender the license. So that is basically out in the cities in the water, 85% come from the Russian River. So that is the big issue. So when this interview conducted by a consulting company and me and also Michael Burgers. Also, Mike, could you share something with us or?
We're currently looking into the entire Potter Valley project. There's a lot of activity right now about what the next steps are going to be. And when the mayor and I were talking to the consultants that were interviewing us, they didn't, one of the things that became apparently clear is that we're behind. And so Public Works, in conjunction with the city manager's office, is going to be looking into how do we get caught up and what's the mechanism for getting the word out, which is the biggest point of confusion for me. So I had Matt Wargula, who represents the city on the WAC and the TAC along with the mayor. I had him ask the question at the TAC meeting of how this information is going to get pushed out. Because after the interview that the mayor and I did, this was one of my concerns. It doesn't appear that the system is in place at this time, and we're behind. And so my emphasis, and right now I'm looking into bringing a measure to City Council to discuss something similar that Santa Rosa has done and inform the City Council, City of Santa Rosa, and inform the City Council about what the current status is, what we consider next steps to be, and really give a briefing, because as the mayor indicated, this is an important issue. It represents a large transfer of water from, I believe, the Eel to the Russian River Basin, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's being stopped. And as users of the Russian River water, supplying water to our valley, this is a really big deal, and we're taking it seriously, and we will be putting something together to bring to council to get council more informed, because it's all fairly new. It's been talked about for a long time, but it's just been kind of kicked around, and now it's coming 11th hour. The consultant put a slide up, a graphic that said, by the end of 22-23, we want to have these steps initiated. Well, it's the end of 22. And so we are a little bit behind, and we're getting on track to get caught up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. So that is the consulting company, the so-called Kearns and West. It is hired by Sonoma Water. So I would suggest maybe we contact with the consulting company, give us the presentation. We do something in advance, and basically know what's going on, what's happening. A lot of technical issue we cannot trust PG&E because they are bad records, and they wanted to use this kind of necessities as the weapon or hostage for the residents. That is not acceptable. It was said, and Jared Hoffman, the congressman, starting this project, deal with the PG&E for a couple of years. But we are water using, because this water for us is life water, 85% relying on that. Our voice should be heard, and also we should fight for ourselves. So that is the only report I have. No public comments, this one. Yeah, thank you. So if there are no any reports, I would like to move to city manager, agenda number 9. Do you have any comments and announcements?
Yeah, Mayor Ding and City Council members, this is actually David's, should be announcing this, but we're issuing the commercial cannabis business permit on Friday, and to Spark, and that certifies that they have met all conditions and requirements of the city Sonoma required to open their commercial business. So that's the final step in getting them certified. And I just wanted to mention that the revenue from Spark is coming in. We had only budgeted $150,000 conservatively. We didn't have any idea, but we're right now we're already at $50,000. So that's through September. So it's doing well.
All right, that's good. All right, agenda number 10, city attorney comments. David.
I have no report. Thank you.
All right. So the agenda number 11, commission and the committee roster. Do you have any? just for information. All right, last agenda number, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
We are gonna now-
And we'd like to continue our special closed session meeting after this regular meeting. Good night, everyone. We will be back and report.